Tim Hartley there. No extra time allowed for us, so that's all for this week. I'm Pascal Harter. The producer was Polly Hope, and you can hear more about the real lives behind the news headlines by searching for From Our Own Correspondent on bbc.com. And we'll be back next weekend, so do join us then, here on the BBC World Service.
BBC.
That was the BBC.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Monday, January 26th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Let's say hello to the team this morning. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Corey Funk is our show director. And Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, days of extreme and dangerous cold are coming to an end in Winnipeg, but over the weekend, shelters were packed. One man, though, says he's been avoiding shelter spaces because he says they're too full, and he doesn't think they're safe. Mitchell Peters tried to escape the cold yesterday by staying in a bus shelter near Polo Park, and he says those winter months can be so hard. We're going to hear from him coming up. And a 91-year-old woman is missing. Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgar. She was last seen in St. Boniface in the 400 block of Taché on Saturday morning. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Coming up today on Information Radio, after spending the weekend cursing winter under our breath, or maybe just out loud, we'll hear from a researcher who says we can still learn to enjoy this time of year, and the answer may lie in a community that's much darker and colder than anywhere in Manitoba. Also coming up, if you're a parent, you likely know how tough it is to find a daycare spot for your kid. CBC has learned a daycare built with provincial money in East St. Paul back in 2024 still hasn't cared for a single child. We will tell you why. And people across Minnesota are taking part in an economic blackout in protest of the federal immigration crackdowns in Minneapolis. This after another person was killed by an ICE officer. We will reach a business owner in St. Paul to get a sense of these new developments. That conversation comes up after 8 o'clock. For these stories, weather updates, music, and more, you can stay with us here on Information Radio. Also, I want to mention we have a contest coming up today, and it's one that you definitely want to be ready for. It's your chance to win a fabulous CBC Winnipeg prize pack to see the WSO perform with CBC's Murdoch Mysteries. A collaboration might be surprising. Stay tuned for that contest detail.
On cue.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power. The Norwegian comedy drama Sentimental Value made waves at Cannes, breaking applause records. You'll hear from Elle Fanning, who stars in the movie as an A-list actor who switches gears for an indie film, and how closely that story mirrors her own.
I'm conscious of keeping a bit of mystery to myself.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. A winter storm is bringing blistering cold and heavy snow to many parts of Canada. The Maritimes will be next. More than 35 centimeters of snow could fall there by midday tomorrow. In some areas, temperatures are dipping well below minus 40 with the wind chill. Cold weather warnings are in place for Labrador, Northern Ontario, and Southern Manitoba. And in Quebec, thousands are without power. The CBC's Corbina Oduro has been speaking with people weathering the storm in Montreal.
So there's no light. You can see that it's 5 degrees.
Janine St. Jacques has been without power since Saturday morning. She's been wearing 6 layers of clothing just to keep herself warm.
A vest, another puffy coat, a really heavy sweater, long sweater, made for winter outside, another sweater, a shirt, an undershirt. And I'm still cold.
Thousands of people in several areas of Montreal and the province have been without power for a while in the midst of an extreme cold warning. Hydro-Quebec was working all weekend to restore power for a few thousand people across the island of Montreal. A circuit breaker failure in their Hampstead station is the cause of these outages. Hydro-Quebec spokesperson Lynn St. Laurent says some people won't see power back online till later today.
There will be
an investigation to see what exactly happened. We cannot say that it's because of the cold. It might be, but we can't identify that reason as of yet.
Some people slept in cots in community centers set up by the Red Cross as emergency shelters.
We're surviving.
Quebec, the Maritimes, and Ontario faced a bone-chilling polar vortex over the weekend. And yesterday, Quebec and Ontario were hit with a snowstorm. At Toronto's Pearson Airport, hundreds of flights canceled, which had a downstream effect on airline travel in other cities. Shirley Keaty is hoping to be able to fly out today.
At my age, I don't want to be at the airport for hours. I feel stressed. I want to get out of this cold.
Across Ontario, over 125 crashes on the roads were reported in the first 24 hours of the storm. Provincial police are urging people to drive safely and avoid unnecessary travels. Kubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
Parliament returns today after its 6-week winter break, and Prime Minister Mark Carney will be kicking things off with an announcement aimed at making life more affordable for Canadians. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what is the government about to announce?
Marcia, with the announcement we're expecting this morning, the Liberal government is returning to something it first did when grocery prices spiked during the pandemic. CBC Radio Canada has confirmed with government sources what the Toronto Star first reported last night, that lower and middle income families that are eligible to receive the GST rebate, that's about 12 million Canadians, are about to get much bigger payments in 2026 to help them tackle rising grocery costs. Now, normally the GST rebate only rises according to the overall inflation rate, say 2 or 3%. But food inflation remains stubbornly higher than that. We're talking more like 5 or 6%. So for the next 5 years, the GST rebate is going to increase by 25%. And for this coming June, there will be a one-time top-up on top of that, another 50%, something called the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. So taken all together, this could add up to an extra $400 for a single-person household, $800 more for a couple with 2 kids. The spike in food prices has been a major focus for the opposition Conservatives. In a letter over the weekend, Pierre Poilievre reminded the Prime Minister that Liberals promised affordable groceries. He said Conservatives would be eager to fast-track any proposals to address this. So at least for their first big move, as the House of Commons returns today, the Liberals do have reason to believe they're going to find opposition support.
But the Prime Minister will not be in question period. He's going to Toronto to meet Ontario Premier Doug Ford. What's happening there?
Yeah, last week Ontario's Premier was complaining very loudly alongside auto industry representatives about being kept in the dark while the Carney government was negotiating with Chinese officials to allow more electric vehicles into the Canadian market. Originally, the Premier was to meet with Industry Minister Melanie Joly today. Now, following a conversation, it's Mark Carney himself that's paying Doug Ford a visit.
All right, thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. 2 federal court judges will hear arguments today about ICE operations in Minneapolis. Pressure is mounting on U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration over the shooting death of another American citizen. Alex Pretty was killed just weeks after Renee Good was fatally shot by an immigration officer in the same city. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. Willie, what is the latest?
So yet again, there are dueling narratives around the shooting of an American by an immigration agent. In this case, it's the killing of 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Pretty. Videos show him interacting with at least a half dozen immigration and customs enforcement officers. The shooting, captured from multiple angles, appears to show the ICE agents wrestling Pretty to the ground before several shots are fired. The Department of Homeland Security said Pretty approached ICE agents with a 9mm handgun, but the video appears to paint a different picture. ICE agents approaching the man as he holds a cell phone and tries to step between the agents and a woman. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar says it's time for ICE to leave Minneapolis.
Everyone can see that video. Everyone can see that he wasn't brandishing a gun. He was brandishing a cell phone, and that it was the agents that removed the gun from his back pocket. And I hope this happens. It must, because we must have a transparent and fair investigation for the public to have any trust.
As of now, Homeland Security is leading the investigation into the shooting.
What are we hearing from U.S. President Donald Trump?
So Trump initially posted on social media a picture of the gun that agents took from Preddy, saying, "What is that all about?" But in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he said the administration was investigating. He said, "We're looking, we're reviewing everything, and we'll come out with a determination." He also suggested that at some point, ICE will conclude its operation in the state. While he didn't provide a timeline, he's facing increasing pressure from both Democrats and now even some Republicans over the administration's actions in Minnesota that have now left 2 American citizens dead.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Houthi fighters in Yemen are threatening new attacks on ships traveling through the Red Sea. They posted a short video online. It includes images of a ship on fire, and the caption reads, "Soon." The threat is being seen as a show of support for Iran. A U.S. aircraft carrier and other guided missile destroyers are sailing toward the region. Trump has said the ships are being moved just in case he decides to take action against Iran. Millions of Canadians have no idea an invisible health threat is hiding inside their homes. Among non-smokers, radon is the top cause of lung cancer. Now, there's a growing push to change how houses are built in Canada to prevent people from breathing in the radioactive gas. Health reporter Lauren Pelly has more.
Canadians are amongst the most radon-exposed persons on this planet.
At the University of Calgary, Aaron Godarzi is leading a national study on radon. His team found an estimated 10 million people across the country are living in houses with dangerously high levels. This naturally occurring gas is released from the ground as the uranium in soil and rock breaks down, and it can build up inside your home. Over time, high exposure is linked to lung cancer. The number of homes with dangerous levels has more than doubled since 2012.
But our houses are our safe spaces. And we don't like to think of our safe spaces as being harmful.
Godarzi says there are lots of factors why Canada is facing high levels of radon, and it's partially tied to building design. Homes are now more airtight to trap warmth, and by extension, radon as well. He's now among those welcoming a major change to the Canadian Building Code, just released last month, and it now requires newly built homes to have a passive radon stack, which acts like a chimney to help funnel this radioactive gas safely outside.
So it's such a big accomplishment.
Health Canada spokesperson Kelly Bush says the department's radon team helped inform the new guidelines, but they won't translate into action overnight.
It needs to be adopted by provinces and territories, but long term, we are going to be building homes in Canada that have less radon in it.
Others warn the bigger issue is the millions of existing homes that already pose health risks and the high cost to install radon mitigation systems. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Calgary.
For a deeper look at how scientists are working to protect Canadians from this invisible threat, you can read Lauren's reporting at cbcnews.ca. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please tell a friend and follow us. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, Prime Minister Mark Carney has been pitching Canada as a trading partner on the world stage. Alongside those talks have been efforts to attract investment. More on that with international trade expert Carlo Dade. Also, the Bear Clan Patrol was out looking for people stuck in the cold yesterday as temperatures dipped to -24. CBC caught up with their executive director just outside of Polo Park on Sunday. And as athletes prepare to strap on their skis and skates for Milano Cortina 2026, we'll take a look at how the Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games inspire more Canadians to get outside and get active. It's now time for news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, a daycare built northeast of Winnipeg with provincial funds is still not open, even though it was complete more than a year ago. The daycare in East St. Paul has 600 children on the waiting list for just 74 spaces. We're going to hear from the education minister coming up. As well, Manitoba may be getting more VLTs. Premier Wabkanu ordered a pause on gaming expansion be lifted back in 2023. And since then, no new licenses have been issued. But last week, the CEO of Liquor and Lotteries told a legislative committee the corporation is weighing 30 requests for more VLTs, all from First Nations communities. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and thank you to the team on the show this morning. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Abby Adiemi is here with a look at the forecast.
How did you hold up this weekend?
You know what? Pretty good. I spent a lot of time indoors, but to get to various buildings, you got to be outdoors. So I felt that chill.
I had one rule. I run my errands, and if I have to visit anybody, if I don't visit you before going home, I'm done till the next day.
Okay, so
it's a one trip for everybody.
One trip for everybody.
If it doesn't happen while I'm outside, I ain't going back.
I get that, because once you get home, it's hard to leave.
No, I don't want to bundle up and look for how to unplug the car and everything. No, I can't deal with that. The good thing is, that extreme cold is it's finally beginning to lift across most of the regions. We still have it though. You can see the map, the colors are still there. But the winds are still going to be bringing some local blowing snow in some areas. Just as spotted at the airport right now, we have blowing snow at the airport. We're seeing temperatures in the city around minus 23 degrees, cloudy outside. It's going to remain steady around this region. We might see it get to minus 18 and later, but we're going to see temperatures really stay between minus 23 and minus 20 all morning before we see some minus 18s later. And then our high for today around minus 15 by the afternoon period. We're going to be dealing with winds coming from the south that will be shifting northwest later. We have that good chance of flurries sweeping through the city later. So if you're in the outlying areas of the city, you might be noticing snow really blowing here and there, so take it easy if you're on the highway. Across the south, we're seeing temperatures between minus 17 and minus 24 at this time. And further north, we're just seeing most of the regions up north around minus 22 around Tuduli Lake and minus 20 in Churchill this morning. But Winnipeg, we are at minus 23. Some areas clicking minus 24. We'll warm to minus 15 later today.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is our show director.
Minus 15?
Minus 15.
Tropical.
Warm.
Yes.
Beautiful. Lovely. On the show, we're talking about the Olympic effect and whether the Winter Games could encourage, Canadians to get out there, try a new sport. You're not really afraid of being active out there in the cold.
No.
But if you could choose one Olympic winter sport to try.
Yeah, to try.
What do you think it would
be? But the brave side of me would like to say ski jumping, but I think I would die. But,
scary, yes.
Yeah, but I think I just see them flying. It looks fun.
It looks really fun.
When you can do it, it looks like a great time. But I think I'd be a scaredy cat. But I think that's the one I'd want to do.
As a kid, after watching the Olympics, I'd be like, yeah, I'm so hyped. And I would skate in circles. There was a rink in the park behind my house.
Yeah.
And I would skate in circles and I would pretend I was a speed skater. I was so slow. I was no speed skater. Those dreams did not come true because I'm terrible at skating. But there is something about watching the Olympics and then being like, let's do something.
I know. I'm debating as a parent, just because I don't want to always have the TV. We're not like a TV family, but I'm kind of tempted to just have it on the background.
Leave the Olympics on, yeah.
Yeah, to leave the Olympics on so kids can see people doing really cool things.
So your little ones can become ski jumpers.
I don't know if I would want that for them. I'd have to see. It's like one of those do I support them, do I not? I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. As for the commute out there, it's I guess it's might be decent skiing weather later today. But it's been pretty quiet so far on the roads. I haven't heard of any major issues, but if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you see something, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Even if you've never dreamt of being an Olympic athlete, watching the games can be inspiring. Not only is the amount of skill and athleticism impressive, some of those sports just look like a lot of fun. So with the Milano Cortina Winter Games less than 2 weeks away, we're looking at whether an event like this can encourage more Canadians to get active. Joining me now is Lee Vanderloo. She's Scientific Director at Participaction. Hi, Lee.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Corey would like to try ski jumping. I would like to try more speed skating. What do you think of this idea that people might be inspired to try new sports or just get active because of the Winter Games?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see this phenomenon a lot with really big sporting events, especially when it hits close to home. So we saw that this past summer with the World Series and the Toronto Blue Jays, so having a Canadian team in there. We saw registration for boys and girls across the ages skyrocket. And so the Olympics are no different. They can absolutely create a short-term spark of inspiration and motivation. And so the best thing we can do is find ways to turn that excitement into a simple plan. What will I do this week? Where will I do it? And what other things do I need to consider to set myself up for success?
Were you ever inspired to try a sport because of the Olympics?
Yeah, so similar to you with the skating that you mentioned, definitely I remember watching the 2010 men's Olympic gold medal round for hockey.
Ooh, such a good game.
Exactly. And I remember just so pivotal, everyone cheering and just, being in such awe of these athletes. And remember thinking I want to be a bigger skater. I'm not going to be an NHL player. I didn't have those aspirations, but I just want to be faster on ice. And be able to stop really fast and just pivot. And yeah, I was never a particularly strong skater. I would have been early teens when those games took place. And I really just took advantage of outdoor community rinks in Alberta, community centers that had open free skates, went a lot with my two sisters, friends from school after school. And eventually just started to make a commitment that every year I'm going skating a couple times. And yeah, I still, now as an adult, I definitely try to do that in Toronto with so many different outdoor rinks. Yeah, I definitely feel a lot more confident. And I would say there was definitely a link between that game and my ability to be a little bit of a stronger skater today.
Lee, why is being active important even when it's cold? And what sort of tips do you have for folks to continue being active year-round?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that in the winter, it's easier to slip into, being more sedentary. We immediately want to go into hibernation mode. But movement is still one of the best things we can do, not only for our physical health, but our mental health. So during the winter months, we tend to have a little less motivation. Sometimes our sleep isn't the best. Definitely low moods or increased stress are very prevalent. So whether it's the winter blues or dealing with something a little bit more, serious, or even, just coming down from the high of the holidays, it's a very real. And so movement during the winter months can definitely help boost energy, support moods, improve resiliency from stressful situations, and help maintain strength and mobility throughout the season so we don't lose those gains or those great habits that we had throughout the winter months. And it's important to remember that even small amounts of activity add up. You don't need a perfect perfect workout to benefit from the movement. And every little bit counts. So you don't need to be doing 60 minutes at a time for it to mean something. Even 10 minutes here and there is definitely going to help you build up those habits and be a little bit more consistent and intentional with physical activity.
Lee, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Lee Vanderloo is Scientific Director at Participaction.
Whether you're hanging out or out on the move, stay in the know with CBC Listen. The cost of living with Paul Havershrud goes beyond facts and figures.
Real estate is the 800-pound gorilla of Canada's economy.
And What on Earth with Laura Lynch explores the climate change crisis, problems and solutions.
What happened that made you start to think and see climate change differently?
The Cost of Living and What on Earth. Available now on CBC Listen.
Well, we have made it out of that deep freeze, but some people were still stuck outside in the cold despite temperatures dipping below -24 yesterday. Winnipeg can still expect very cold temperatures until the end of the month. CBC's Gavin Axelrod went to talk to people in the cold at Polo Park. That's where he found Mitchell Peters in a bus shelter trying to keep warm.
Mitchell,
are you worried, like, for your own safety?
Yeah, for sure, all the time. Especially with the weather going down, it's pretty cold, man.
Some of the bus shelters, like, they're not heated, but is it helpful to stay in a place like this?
It is, it does. It keeps the wind away. Like that, it keeps the wind away.
Do you think the city needs to have more heated spaces for folks to stay warm?
Oh, for sure. They're trying to take them away, but I don't know why, but you know for sure more heated places would be.
Where do you usually go, like, besides the bus shelter here?
Here, pretty much it's here, like friends. Never have room.
Do you ever go to shelters?
No.
Why not? I know a lot of people don't like them.
No, a lot of people don't like them. Yeah, it's too much. It gets too packed, and then at the same time, there's a lot of people. Crazy people out there.
Are they safe?
No.
What would your message be to, like, people who might see this about what it's like out here in the cold?
Stay warm. Pretty much it, man. All I can say. That's all I say every day.
How long have you been out here for?
About a year and a half now. Yeah, about a year and a half.
How have you kind of learned to, like, kind of survive out here?
I just go find, like, little things like basic clothes everywhere. Like, I don't know. Sorry to say, but donation bins and all that, yeah.
What would you want people to know who are going to watch this about what it's like out here in the cold, especially on a day like today?
I don't know, stay warm for sure.
Kevin Walker, Executive Director for Bear Clan Patrol.
Tell me about, like, what you guys are out doing today.
Today we're probably going to be out most of the afternoon checking on our relatives throughout the city. We're mobile today, just trying to keep a small footprint so our volunteers stay warm and safe, as well as the relatives out on the street. So we're a 3-person crew today. We're going to be checking from St. James to St. Boniface to St. Vital to the North End, all throughout the city, and giving out warm blankets and mitts, toques, things like that.
What are you seeing out there today so far?
Well, fortunately, we're seeing that there's a lot of people that are in the shelters. A lot of people are kind of staying out of the elements. We're kind of going to be the resources for those that aren't. So we're going to continue to be out here no matter how cold it gets, and continue to be a resource for the unhoused people.
One thing we've been asking folks is, like, do you think that there needs to be more warming spaces or places to get warm in the downtown area that people can just duck into for?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shelters that now are starting to open up. I know 190 to Dinaway Mac, it's a very busy shelter as well. And I know that other organizations throughout the city, such as DCSP, ourselves, and other organizations that are doing outreach work are referring them to these shelters.
When the shelters get full, how challenging can it be for folks to find that warm space?
Oh, I think it's really hard to find places to go when there aren't any spots available. But fortunately, I think most of the shelters are probably to capacity now, but they always seem to make room for other people.
Just like, how dangerous can it be for someone to be out unhoused on a day like today?
Well, it's cold enough for us, and we're out for just a couple hours. Can you imagine what it's like being out here full time, 24 hours? I mean, that's why it's important that all the outreach programs are out there helping out as much as they can, get those warm clothing and food out to people that need it.
That was CBC's Gavin Axelrod. He was speaking with Mitchell Peters and Kevin Walker, the Executive Director of Bear Clan Patrol at Polo Park yesterday. The time is 6:25. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Winnipeg-based Cree artist Fontaine is embracing a grittier sound on her new album, Good Buddy. Recorded live to tape to capture the raw energy of their touring band, the record moves away from their folkier roots towards the rock star dreams she had growing up. From that project, this is Home Right Here.
Running down to the well, through the forests and the fields, with
with my cousins at my heels. In the garden with my mom, pulling weeds all day long, picking sweetgrass from the lawn. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. Rainbow prisms down the hall, sparkles from a disco ball, soulmates written on the wall. Walking down Main with you, sipping coffee with a view, watch the people passing through. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. At home right here. At home right here. Spinning records all night long in Jimmy's place behind the house. Someone's passed out on the couch. Lights of yellow, red, and blue, sitting talking in the booth. I love coming home to you, to you. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. At home right here. At home right here. I wonder when I will be back again. I feel at home right here. I wonder if I will be back again. Wonder if I will be back again.
That was Home Right Here by Manitoba's own Fontaine.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. Still to come on the show, we will hear what the governor of Minnesota and the head of the U.S. Border Patrol had to say after ICE agents shot and killed another person in Minneapolis over the weekend. As well, Prime Minister Mark Carney has been pitching Canada as a trading partner on the world stage. Alongside those talks have been efforts to attract investment. We will have more on that with an international trade expert. And of course, we will bring you your business news. Over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods entering the U.S. if Canada, quote, makes a deal with China. What has been Canada's response? We will find out in the business report. But first, your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's minus 22 right now. Our high today is minus 15. Good chance of flurries with some blowing snow because of a very strong wind developing before noon today. A daycare completed in East St. Paul more than a year ago has yet to care for a single child. CBC reporter Bartley Kivas explains.
A $5.5 million daycare built on a former golf course east of Highway 59 was finished in 2024. There's space in the daycare for 74 kids, and 600 are on the waiting list. But the daycare is empty and has no electricity. Education Minister Tracy Schmidt says the government can't forward funds to the daycare because it's not sure who owns the land. The province had a deal with Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust.
Our understanding is right now they do not own that land.
The trust bought the old golf course in 2021 and sold most of the shares in the land in 2024. Documentation suggests the trust still owns the daycare land. Schmidt says the government is working to clarify this. Patrick Ryan is a volunteer board chair of the nonprofit daycare operator.
We just really hope that people can come together to get this going as quick as possible.
There's also a $2.5 million lien on the land where the daycare sits, placed there by the builder, which hasn't been fully paid. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 91-year-old woman is missing, and Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgar. She was last seen in St. Boniface in the 400 block of Taché Saturday morning. She is 5 feet tall, medium build with gray hair, and was last seen in a white long-sleeve shirt, black jacket, black pants, and dark gray shoes. Now, police are concerned for her well-being. If you know anything about her, call police. Days of extreme and dangerous cold have packed shelters in Winnipeg, but one man says he's avoiding shelter spaces because they're too full and he doesn't think they're safe. Mitchell Peters tried to escape the cold yesterday by staying in a bus shelter near Polo Park. He says the winter months can be really hard.
How do I keep warm up here? And I just find little things like this, like blankets, cold, the stuff that will keep me not too cold, you know what I mean? It's warm. Nice and warm here.
Early Sunday morning temperatures in this city dipped to minus 38 degrees. Now, braving that bitter cold to raise awareness of the growing death toll of protesters in Iran.
Hey, Canada! Be their voice for Iran! Hey, Canada!
At least 60 people outside Polo Park for a car rally Sunday as protests in their home country near a 1-month mark. Demonstrations in Iran have left at least 3,100 people dead since late December. Alan Ashkan Wise left Iran because of political persecution.
It's been painful because all we have heard so far from our politicians here in Canada has been just promises and just words. Condemning words are not going to matter.
Wise says power outages in Iran continue to leave families in Canada cut off from their loved ones. A Winnipeg nurse apologized for, quote, dishonest, selfish behavior to her regulator last year. The nurse was punished after failing to disclose criminal convictions to the college 4 times since 2020. She had been convicted of stealing credit cards from her colleagues in 2009. Sonia Udod is a nursing professor at the University of Manitoba. She says the situation sits at the intersection between public trust and regulatory responsibility.
Just because somebody has been convicted of a criminal offense does not necessarily predict that they will be professionally incompetent or risk to patient safety.
The nurse was fined $7,500, ordered to pay $4,000 in costs, and issued a reprimand. Well, in just a few hours, Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to announce new measures to make life more affordable for Canadians. Government sources say Carney is boosting the GST credit, starting with a one-time 50% top-up in June. After that, quarterly GST payments will increase by 25% over the next 5 years. The government says this could improve the lives of 12 million Canadians, and this year it could mean an extra $400 for a single low-income person. 2 federal court judges will hear arguments today about ICE operations in Minneapolis. Pressure is mounting on U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration over the shooting death of another American citizen. Alex Pretty, 37 years old, was killed just weeks after Renee Good was fatally shot by an immigration officer in that same city. You can hear the latest on this story coming up on World Report at 7. Well, Manitoba may be getting more VLTs. Premier Wab Kinew ordered the pause on gaming expansion be lifted in 2023. Since then, though, no new licenses have been issued. But last week, the CEO of Liquor and Lotteries told a legislative committee the corporation is weighing 30 requests for more VLTs, all from First Nations communities. Glenn Simard, Minister for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, says the corporation is studying requests, and a key question is whether the applicants are still still interested since a lot of the proposals are years old.
Chief and council in one community may disagree with the previous administration's request or approach.
The pause on gaming expansion was implemented back in 2018. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. Abby Adiemi, our show technician, is here with a look at your weather forecast.
Well, Chloe, today is going to be more about the blowing snow. That's the concern for a lot of people. If you're outside the city driving in on any of the highways, you will notice the snow blowing around. And of course, the wind chill is still going to be a concern, but not in the range of the minus 40s. We're going to be seeing more like minus 30s, which is more like a Manitoba-friendly kind of wind chill for this time of the year. However, the risk of frostbite is still a thing in a lot of the regions. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at minus 23, drifting snow in some parts of the city. We're seeing the wind chill near minus 38 this morning. Expect a cloudy day. A good chance of flurries will be coming our way, along with some winds whipping that around. So take that into consideration. Our highs for today will be around minus 15. In the Pembina Valley region, we're seeing temperatures around minus 18 and cloudy at this time. That region warms up to about minus 14 later today. Also, light snow will be coming your way with some gusty winds, and that would drive the wind chill close to minus 32 in that region. From Brandon towards Nipawin, we're seeing current conditions also around minus 18. Cloudy conditions we're spotting there. Similar to Winnipeg, that region warms up to minus 15 with a slim chance of flurries accompanied by blowing snow and wind chills close to minus 35 in the region. For the Parkland region, Dauphin and surrounding communities, we're looking at temperatures around minus 15. You're going to stay around that minus 15 for most of the day. However, there's a good chance of flurries and gusty winds to make the wind chill close to minus 32. In Gimli, the mercury sits at minus 22 at this time. Cloudy skies. The highs will be around minus 15. A good chance of afternoon flurries along with frostbites close to minus 36 due to the wind chill. Now we track it into the northern parts of the province, the powerful influence surrounding communities, and we're tracking it up north. We're seeing temperatures already near minus 20s with drifting snow in a lot of the regions. Highs would, you won't really get to see it warm up much. Temperatures just going to hover close to minus 27 in that part of the province. And for that region, we'll see wind chills and the valleys close to minus 46 this morning. Thompson is at minus 22, warming up to minus 19. The wind chill holds steady around minus 32. Tudula Lake, similar to Thompson, it's going to feel like minus 33 there, while Churchill is at minus 20 at this time. Highs will be close to minus 19. However, with those windy conditions, it's going to feel like minus 33. So the province is still going to be feeling those chilly conditions with the wind chill still a concern and frostbites in minutes, but it's not going to be close to the minus 50s that we're getting, that we got over the weekend into yesterday. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at minus 23. We warm up to minus 15 later.
Lovely.
15, not 20.
I'm going to go to the beach.
Yeah, you could take the
Ice fish, I guess.
You could take the garbage out today.
That's a good idea. That is a very good idea.
If
Thank you,
Abby.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Corey Funk, minus 15.
Yes.
What are you going to do to celebrate?
Might bundle up the kiddos and take them back from daycare in their toboggan today. Maybe.
Ooh,
I
fun.
think if it's going to be that warm.
I
I've
like
been holding off. You had to pick them up in the car, but now I think we can do a little toboggan ride.
Nice. Very fun.
Yes. So it is, speaking of tobogganing, probably a bit slippery out there actually this morning as well for your commute. So just careful on the roads and the sidewalks. But other than that, I haven't heard of any major issues. But if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you see something going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
No problem.
You're listening to Information Radio, and Crystalie Ramlakan is here with the Business Report. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chloe.
So over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods entering the U.S. if Canada, quote, makes a deal with China. What has been Canada's response?
Yeah, well, Prime Minister Mark Carney says that Canada has no intention of pursuing a free trade agreement with China. So here's more from Carney on that.
We have commitments under CUSMA that not to pursue free trade agreements with non-market economies without prior notification. We have no intention of doing that with China or any other non-market economy. What we've done with China is to rectify some issues that developed in the last couple of years. In many respects, we're going, to use the expression, back to the future with respect to EVs, with respect to agriculture, with respect to fish products and other food products, but with additional protections. So, for example, back in 2023, we didn't have a cap on the number of EVs.
Now, Canada recently reached an agreement with China to allow 49,000 electric vehicles into the market at a lowered tariff rate in exchange for China lowering tariffs on Canadian canola and other products. But yeah, Trump continued to voice his displeasure yesterday afternoon on his Truth Social account. But, you know, his latest threat is a departure from his initial comments where he appeared unfazed about the deal and said it was a good thing. So, yes, another flip-flop from Trump.
We're going to stay on news from the Prime Minister here, Krista Lee. He's set to make an announcement about making life more affordable this morning.
So you just heard a little bit about this on the news with Heather, but yeah, the Prime Minister is set to announce an increase to the GST credit today as part of a larger suite of affordability measures intended to offset the rising cost of groceries. So government sources say quarterly GST payments will increase by 25% over the next 5 years, with a one-time top-up of 50% in June. So this measure is expected to affect about 12 million Canadians. And the move comes as Carney faces pressure from the opposition to address grocery prices, which are outpacing other forms of inflation. So federal estimates suggest the changes could mean an additional $400 this year for a single person with a low income and $800 for a couple with 2 children. And the announcement is also supposed to include measures to fix structural problems with Canada's food supply chain and steps to improve competition.
And staying on food, protein has been a huge trend. I'm seeing protein added to everything, things you wouldn't expect. What is the next big thing, Krista Lee?
Yes, that's right. And there's so many of these crazy protein recipes all over online. And yeah, whenever you go to the store, it always says added protein. But fiber is on pace to be the next IT nutrient. So consumers are really fixated on gut health, and that's leading to the fiber maxing trend taking hold on social media. And as people try to maximize the fiber in their meals, major food companies, of course, are trying to capitalize. So PepsiCo said on its most recent earnings call that fiber will be the next protein. Last summer, it launched a soda with added fiber.
What?
Yes. And it's like similar to those, other drinks like Poppy. So, I think that Pepsi recently bought Poppy. And so, yeah, those soda drinks that say they have like added fiber and they're like supposed to be like healthy sodas, I don't know. They're okay tasting. They're just, I feel like if you want a soda, just have a soda. Maybe just eat some vegetables to get your fiber. But yeah, you know what? More fiber-enhanced products are on the way, including chips, popcorn, and hydration packets. Even the CEO for McDonald's recently predicted that fiber is going to be big this year. Now, retail experts say they predict more snacks such as chips and crackers made from things such as legumes and beans. And health experts say it's generally a good, healthy trend, but some say they would rather consumers gravitate toward produce and vegetables for their main fiber needs.
All right, first protein, now fiber. I'm excited for when you bring us the next food trend that we'll find in just everything on grocery store shelves. Krista Lee, thank you.
All right, thanks, Chloe.
That was Krista Lee Ramlakan with the business news. It is 6:45. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. Alex Pretty, an American citizen, was killed Saturday in another shooting in Minneapolis involving federal officers. He was 37 years old and worked as an intensive care unit nurse. His death, which was captured in witness videos, once again has local and federal officials disagreeing on who should be blamed, and has renewed outcry and protest over the Trump administration's immigration operations. The shooting comes just over 2 weeks after an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer fatally shot Renee Good in the same city. Here's what Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had to say in a news conference on Sunday.
I had the privilege of talking with Michael and Susan, Alex's parents, yesterday, and the heartache in the hours after your son's murdered in front of the world is one thing, but what stood out to me was a parent's desire and their passion to make sure that the story of Alex was told. Someone who went to work to care for veterans, someone who was a valued coworker, someone who relished and lived in this state in a big way, whether it was outdoor activities or being down there on the street as a First Amendment witness to what ICE is doing to this state. So once again, to Michael and Susan, when I talk to these parents, it's always in deep confidential conversation. In this one, though, Michael was very clear to me. He said, don't let them forget Alex's story. The world knows how he died. He died at the hands of ICE agents on the streets of Minneapolis. They want us to make sure we said how he lived. So to Michael and Susan, our deepest sympathies, but you have my commitment to continue to tell that story. So now we've got 2 Minnesotans dead. We didn't had time to start telling Renee's story of a poet and a mother and a bright spirit, and now we're telling Alex's story. So my question is, what's the plan, Donald Trump? What is the plan? What do we need to do to get these federal agents out of our state? You thought fear, violence, and chaos is what you wanted from us, and you clearly underestimated the people of this state and nation. We are tired, but we're resolved. We're peaceful, but we'll never forget. We're angry, but we won't give up hope. And above all else, we are clearly unified. If it was the intention of Donald Trump to make an example of Minnesota, then I'm damn proud of the example that the world's seeing. We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference. To Americans who are watching this right now, and I don't know, maybe you're watching it with curiosity, bewilderment, horror, scorn, or sympathy. I've got a question for all of you. What side do you want to be on?
That was Minnesota Governor Tim Walz speaking in Minneapolis on Sunday. There are conflicting accounts of how things unfolded on Saturday, leading to Pretty's death. U.S. federal government officials say Pretty was killed because he posed a direct threat to federal agents and was carrying a handgun. But state and local authorities say witness videos contradict that narrative, while the police chief said the victim had a firearms permit in the open carry state. Here's what U.S. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino had to say on Saturday about the incident.
During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Then, about 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement. Crowd control measures have been deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. This situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. The officer was highly trained and had been serving as a Border Patrol agent for 8 years. The officer has extensive training as a range safety officer and less lethal officer. As mentioned, this is only the latest attack on law enforcement. I want to reiterate what President Donald Trump, Secretary Kristi Noem, myself, Director Marcos Charles, and so many others have said time and again. If you obstruct a law enforcement officer or assault a law enforcement officer, you are in violation of the law and will be arrested.
That was U.S. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino speaking in Minneapolis on Saturday. This is the second time in less than a month that a Minneapolis citizen has been shot and killed at the hands of a federal immigration officer. People across Minnesota are taking part in a, quote, economic blackout in protest of the federal immigration crackdowns in Minneapolis. And after 8 o'clock, we will reach a business owner in St. Paul to get a sense of these new developments.
The fire hose of news from America can feel like a lot these days.
If you're trying to figure out what to make of it all, we got you.
I'm Katie Simpson.
And I'm Paul Hunter. We're correspondents here in Washington.
Working just around the corner from where much of the action is taking place.
2 blocks from the White House.
And that's the name of our new podcast.
For top-notch analysis of U.S. politics from a Canadian perspective, find 2 blocks from the White House on CBC Listen and wherever you get your podcasts.
The time is 6:51. You are listening to Information Radio. The Prime Minister is back in Canada after traveling the world looking to expand trade with other countries. Alongside those discussions were efforts to boost foreign investment in Canada. The most recent push on that front was in Davos, Switzerland. Carney's speech is remembered mostly as a rallying cry for solidarity among middle powers. But it was also a sales pitch.
Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world.
Joining me now to focus on this aspect of Carney's plan for the Canadian economy is Carlo Dade. He is Director of International Policy at the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. Welcome to the show, Carlo. Hello, we are going to try to reach Carlo here shortly. He is Director of International Policy at the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary.
Hello.
Hi, Carlo. Glad to have you.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. So let's dig into this. What is the relationship between the types of investment the Prime Minister has been looking for from other countries and the trade deals he is also seeking?
Sure. Well, here in Western Canada, we know that we need investment into the types of infrastructure that will enable us to, as the Prime Minister said, provide the world what it wants in terms of natural resources, energy, AI, but also technology. We've got a lot to offer. The question has always been in Canada, and we know this well in the West, do we actually want to deliver the goods to foreign markets? Do we want to build the infrastructure, pipelines, port expansions, et cetera, to enable us to move goods to the globe? You know, you've done a good job in Winnipeg with Centerport in taking the lead globally, but there have been questions around the west of the country, especially with pipelines and other infrastructure. So the Prime Minister has gotten the world to take a second look at us, and he's asking the world to help with the sorts of investments that we need, that we simply don't have in Canada because of volume of money, or the type of money, the type of investor, the sophistication, the technology, et cetera. We have to put together a global package to release what we have here in Canada.
So what are the investments then that the Prime Minister has been focused on during these trips?
Right. Well, if you take a look at the trip to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, some of the things the Prime Minister put forward, obviously energy, obviously food. The UAE is a global gateway for shipping food, but also things like AI. But what we've seen come out of that, interestingly, are some of those investments. But here in Calgary, the UAE, because of the trip of Premier Smith and also Prime Minister Carney, the UAE held their largest global investment conference here. And one of the featured topics was airports and logistics. And we've seen an investment by Lufthansa Technik in Calgary, 160 jobs coming in. So it's what you'd expect, but also what you wouldn't expect. Healthcare. We're searching for massive investments from the UAE to build out a global cure for diabetes. We had enough money in Canada to create it and test it, but we need global money to be able to build it out, really share it with the world.
What is unique for foreign investors about Canada?
Well, we have odd sort of deals, and you've got some of these in Winnipeg too, like the diabetes cure. But it's also the ability to have what the world wants, but to be a stable political environment. We're seeing hundreds of billions of dollars from the Chinese going around the globe into our competitors, places like Peru, to build infrastructure to move goods. So Canada offers an alternative in terms of political stability. We may have trouble making up our minds, but once we do make up our minds, we're a pretty safe bet.
Are there any hazards for Canada around foreign investment?
Sure. They're the ones that are in the news right now. Worries about state-owned enterprises making political instead of business decisions about investment. But we see this, obviously, and we worry about it with the Chinese. But our history is really with the U.S. on this issue. Look, about 53% of our foreign investment comes from the U.S. But in the past, we've had instances in the 1950s when the White House has told Standard or Imperial Oil, I forget which one, not to fuel grain ships in Vancouver Harbor, not Vancouver, Washington, Vancouver, British Columbia, because the U.S. had imposed a grain embargo on China. We weren't agreeing with the Americans, so they ordered the ships not to be fueled. We've had Walmart Canada take products off of Canadian shelves because the White House has called Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas, and yelled at them, and we've had to fight to get the products back. So there are risks that are in the news, but there are also the history of issues we've had with the folks down south.
Carlo, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Carlo Dade is Director of International Policy at the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. CBC's Heather Wells joins us now for a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, a daycare built northeast of Winnipeg with provincial funds is still not open, even though it was completed more than a year ago. The daycare is in East St. Paul. 600 children are on the waiting list for 74 spaces. We'll hear what's up. Why is that daycare still not open? Coming up as well. A 91-year-old woman is missing. Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgar, last seen near St. Boniface Hospital Saturday morning. She's 5 feet tall, medium build with gray hair. We do have her photo up on our website. If you've seen her, call police. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Still to come on Information Radio. Is racism in Canadian sport a bigger problem than we think? We'll talk to one expert who says more conversation and action are needed before change can come. She was also named one of CBC Manitoba's future 40 winners. We'll chat with her a little later in the show as well. You might have spent the weekend cursing winter under your breath, or maybe out loud to your friends and family. We're going to hear from a researcher who says we can still learn to enjoy this time of year, and the answer may lie in a community that's much darker and colder than anywhere in Manitoba. That conversation also coming up in the next hour of Information Radio. Stay with us. We will be back after World Report.
On The Current.
Parliament returns today after the winter break, and there is a lot to do. We'll take you to Ottawa with our National Affairs panel with a look at what's on the agenda after Mark Carney's Davos reset.
We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy, but we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger.
That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
The United States ambassador to Canada says there will be consequences if the Carney government abandons its plan to buy more F-35 fighter jets. The jets are made in the United States, and Pete Hoekstra says if Ottawa chooses a European-made alternative, the U.S. Air Force may have to fly into Canadian airspace more often. Hoekstra made the comments in an exclusive interview with the CBC's David Common.
If you're not with the F-35, the structure that we see for NORAD would have to be altered.
Ambassador Pete Hoekstra says the Continental Defense Pact between Canada and the U.S. would be impacted if the Carney government doesn't proceed with its full order of the American-built aircraft.
We'd probably have to get more F-35s.
The United States would.
The United States would.
In order to
fully protect the continent.
And that, he says, could mean more instances of U.S. fighter jets crossing into Canadian airspace to deal with threats before they reach the United States. Such instances do happen already. NORAD, the cross-border defense agency, will launch the closest available fighter jet, even if that means sending a U.S. jet into Canada. 3 years ago, an American F-22 shot down a suspicious balloon floating over Yukon. Even if Canada were to purchase an alternative fighter aircraft, such as the Swedish-built Gripen, Hoekstra says it would still impact NORAD.
An inferior product that is not as interchangeable and interoperable as what the F-35 is, that changes our defense capability, and as such, we have to figure out how we're going to replace that.
The ambassador also tells CBC there will be no grand deal on other trade issues in return for a bigger F-35 order, but that Canada could see more benefits to Canadian companies, which are helping to build the advanced plane. David Common, CBC News, Luke Air Force Base in Arizona.
Next hour, Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to announce new measures to make life more affordable for Canadians. Government sources say he is boosting the GST credit, starting with a one-time 50% top-up in June. After that, quarterly GST payments will increase by 25% over the next 5 years. The government says this could improve the lives of 12 million Canadians, and this year it could mean an extra $400 for a single low-income person. Much of Canada remains under winter weather warnings and cold advisories this morning. A storm is now making its way east. Extreme cold and snow continue to affect parts of eastern Alberta through to Atlantic Canada. And as much as 60 centimeters of snow is expected in some areas, including parts of Toronto. I joined Tricia Kindleman in downtown Toronto, where she has been tracking the latest weather developments. And Tricia, what can you tell us?
Well, really, really challenging winter conditions right across the country. If we sort of want to start out in the west, they are dealing with some really challenging cold temperatures there. And those have been really sitting with them since last week. So it's been a days-long stretch of these record-breaking cold temperatures, particularly in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Across Saskatchewan today, you can expect to see some of those wind chills hovering around minus 30. Manitoba dealing with minus 38 wind chills to start the day, looking to be hovering around minus 25 through the afternoon. Now, Ontario and Quebec, they are still dealing with some alerts. Most of those are cold related after we saw a lot of that snow come down and hit the ground in those provinces already yesterday. Nova Scotia, they are expecting to get that snow still in the next 24 hours or so. There is a yellow alert there calling for 25 to 35 centimeters of snow in certain areas. Also expecting some wind chills to be very extreme there, hovering around that minus 20 again as those winds will be gusting between 50 and 70 kilometers an hour. But again, here in Toronto, dealing with 40 to 60 centimeters of snow. The city says it's going to be days before we're able to dig out and get back to normal here.
People are worried about travel, about cleanup. What are officials saying?
Yeah, well, in addition to that sort of digging out, it's going to take some time. Airports also asking for people's patience as they are digging out. Toronto's Pearson Airport saw the most snow ever since they have been recording that data. So a lot of snow. Their crews also all hands on deck. And once we start to see sort of delays and cancellations out in the east here in Montreal and Toronto, they tend to have ripple effects at airports across the country. So a lot of those airlines right now are offering travelers free change options. So if you have some flexibility or anything like that in your schedule, you can call your airline and also just check that flight status before you head out the door.
All right. Thanks, Tricia.
Thanks.
The CBC's Tricia Kindleman in Toronto. In the U.S., extreme cold and winter storm warnings remain in effect from Texas to Maine.
With the temperatures not likely to get above freezing, it's more likely that things are going to get worse before they get better.
Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves warning residents that it could take days to restore power and clean roads. At least 11 deaths are being blamed on the storm, and officials say dangerous conditions are expected to continue for days. More than 800,000 customers still have no electricity this morning, mostly in southern states, and thousands of flights were canceled yesterday. More than 30 airports across the U.S. are still closed today. In Minneapolis, demonstrators continue to demand an end to federal immigration operations. Protests erupted over the weekend after the shooting of another American citizen by an ICE agent. This is the second time in weeks an American has been shot and killed by federal immigration officers. Now, for the first time, U.S. President Donald Trump is discussing a possible end to the enforcement mission. The CBC's Katie Simpson has the latest from Minneapolis.
I think the world needs to see this, and the world needs to respond to this, because we are fighting for our democracy in our country.
Randy Rayton and her husband Phil are so disgusted by what's been happening in their community. The elderly couple bundled up and endured frigid temperatures to join mourners at the site where Alex Preddy was killed by federal agents.
He gave his life for what really does matter. Our freedom in this country.
Bipartisan backlash over immigration enforcement operations is growing after a second shooting death of an American by federal law enforcement officers. Some Republican lawmakers are joining calls for an independent investigation. There are conversations about a second general labor strike after 50,000 people protested this past Friday. All while Trump administration officials, including the head of Border Patrol, Greg Bovino, cast blame for the shooting, which he says was preventable.
By folks making better choices, politicians, journalists, and would-be anarchists and rioters.
President Donald Trump is also blaming Democrats, accusing local and state leaders of inciting violence. He, for the first time, is musing about pulling ICE agents out of the community. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he said at some point that will happen, but did not offer up a firm timeline. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Minneapolis.
Judges at the International Criminal Court say Philippines' former president, Rodrigo Duterte, is fit to stand trial. An earlier hearing was postponed over health concerns. Duterte is 80 years old. He's facing charges of crimes against humanity for his alleged involvement in dozens of killings as part of his so-called war on drugs. Ryan Wedding is expected to appear in court in California today. He evaded law enforcement for years, but last week in Mexico, the former Olympic snowboarder turned alleged cocaine kingpin was arrested. Thomas Daigle has more on what comes next for the man who was one of the FBI's most wanted.
I would fully suspect that he's not said a word to anybody.
Accused of running $1 billion cocaine empire linked to Mexican cartels, Ryan Wedding may have a trove of information on cross-border drug trafficking. And former FBI agent Brett Kalina says now would be a good time for him to open up.
There's a lot of things he can always do to help himself out and cooperate. There are a lot of people that should be worried.
If convicted in Los Angeles, Wedding is guaranteed an automatic life sentence. He's facing a slew of charges related to drug trafficking, witness tampering, and murder, including the mistaken identity killings of a mother and father in Caledon, Ontario. FBI Director Kash Patel.
He went from an Olympic snowboarder to the largest narco trafficker in modern times.
What's more, former DEA agent Mike Chavaria says it's likely Wedding's contacts span the globe.
This cocaine from Canada, I'm certain, went all over the world. So this guy was very significant.
The prosecutor's office says Wedding will be expected to enter a plea today as he appears for the first time in an LA courtroom. A once unthinkable prospect for a longtime fugitive who spent more than a decade on the run. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, if you're a parent, you likely know how tough it is to find a daycare for your kid. CBC has learned a daycare built with provincial money in East St. Paul in 2024 still hasn't cared for a single child. We are going to tell you why coming up in the show. As well, we will hear from a researcher who led Canada's first report on anti-racism in sport. More on why she believes more Canadian sporting organizations still need to take anti-racism training. But first on the show, after spending the weekend cursing winter, we'll hear from a researcher who says we can still learn to enjoy this time of year. Stay tuned. CBC's Heather Wells joins us now for a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, that extreme cold was dangerous for people needing shelter over the weekend and for those who work to help them. A small crew from the Bear Clan Patrol was out on the weekend giving supplies to those in need, handing out things like toiletries and warm blankets while checking on bus shelters to see if anyone needed extra help. And braving bitter cold to raise awareness of the growing death toll of protesters in Iran.
Hey, Canada! Be their voice for Iran!
At least 60 people outside Polo Park for a car rally yesterday as protesters in their home country near the one month mark. We're going to hear what the protesters here, what those demonstrators had to say in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and good morning to the team on the show. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Abby Adiemi, our show technician, is here with a look at the forecast.
Do I say it's a slightly milder day today?
Ooh.
I'm just saying, is it okay I say that with the minus 50 wind chills we had over the weekend?
I mean, it's certainly, looking at the forecast, it certainly feels like it's going to feel a little bit warmer. Warm is the wrong word. Less cold?
Less cold, I think, because looking at Winnipeg right now, we're just tracking minus 23 in the southern part of the province, and we're seeing minus 17 around the Brandon area. So it's kind of a more like not like the minus 30s we saw the tail end of last week. However, most of the regions will be dealing with drifting snow because we're going to be having light snowfall all through the day, and that will be whipping around across the regions. Winnipeg right now, we're tracking minus 22 in some areas, minus 21 in some areas. We get to warm up to minus 15 later. It's going to be cloudy most day. Good chance of flurries would stick with us all day. So outlying areas of the city and the highways, you will notice the snow whip around. At first, it's going to be coming your way from one direction, and then it's going to change again to the northwest direction. So it's going to be just winds whipping around all day into the afternoon period. And then we're going to see, because of those windy conditions, we will see the wind chill maybe around minus 35, minus 36. And similar conditions we're seeing in the south. Up north, we have snow falling in most of the regions right now. Lynn Lake, minus 21. Thompson, minus 22. Churchill, we're looking at minus 20 there. And Tuduli Lake, we're seeing minus 23 there. So most of the regions, no part of the province is around minus 30 at this time. We're all seeing minus 20s. Winnipeg, minus 22 with drifting snow at the airport.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, our show director, is here. How's that commute going?
You know what? So far, pretty quiet. Looking at Manitoba 511, those highways looking pretty clear. Here in the city, haven't heard of any issues. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see something, you give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Well, Manitoba, how was your weekend? Chances are your answer is cold. Perhaps you've been cursing winter under your breath or feeling the winter blues. Our next guest says it doesn't have to be that way. Carrie Leibowitz is the author of How to Winter, Harness Your Mindset to Thrive on Cold, Dark, or Difficult Days. She's also a health psychologist. We've reached her in Amsterdam. Hi, Carrie.
Hello, good morning.
Now, before Winnipeggers furrow their brow at someone in Amsterdam telling them how to enjoy their winter, you've experienced the darkest and coldest of winters. Much of your work is inspired by your time in a town called Tromsø, Norway. Can you take us into Tromsø? What's it like?
That's right. I spent a year living in Tromsø, Norway, which is 250 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. And so that's so far north that they get 2 months of what's known as the polar night. This is the time each year when the sun sets on November 21st and doesn't rise again until January 21st. So actually, they just saw the sun in Tromsø last week for the first time since late November. So it's a very extreme winter, especially in its darkness, but it can also be quite cold, quite snowy, quite Arctic. And I spent a whole winter there learning about how do the people there do it? How are they not just depressed for half the year?
And they're not. Is this the finding here?
That's the finding. So if you look at the research, the rates of seasonal affective disorder or wintertime depression are actually much lower than we would expect. They're very similar to sort of Washington, D.C. in the U.S., which has a much brighter, warmer winter. And my personal experience living there and conducting my own research is that people there generally tend to have what I call a positive wintertime mindset. So instead of seeing the winter as a really limiting time of year and focusing on all of the discomforts and unpleasantries of the season, which yes, do exist as you're probably experiencing right now with this extreme cold weather, but instead they're really focusing on the season as a time full of special opportunities, that the cold is an opportunity to be cozy indoors with loved ones. The dark is an opportunity to embrace low lighting and rest and slow down. And that the winter is really a special time of year with its own unique pleasures to offer.
We love to call ourselves a winter city here in Winnipeg, but a lot of us don't really embrace the season. What do you think people here in Winnipeg can learn from the people of Tromsø?
Well, I think the first is to really understand that it's okay to change your behavior with the seasons, right? I think a lot of us are sort of trapped in these cycles and systems that want us to be equally productive, equally energetic, equally social year round. And that's really not natural. If you look at every other living thing on the earth, plant or animal, everything else is slowing down in winter. So if you feel more tired or like you want to stay at home or like you don't want to do as much or you're craving different foods, that's normal. And actually finding ways to work with that and adapt to that, I think is really healthy. And that's something that I really learned how to do in Tromsø, where I really saw that they're changing their behavior with the seasons. So find the things that feel special to you in the winter, whether that's knitting or cooking or just binging Netflix, but really indulgently and cozily, and really let winter be the time that you get to do those things.
How do you push past the guilt that comes with that? Because I know oftentimes I feel like I'm missing out. I'm like, I should be going out more. I should be spending more time outside. But, I love a cozy evening. But how do you change your mindset around that?
It's a great question. And to be honest, I still wrestle with what I call my snooze guilt, when I have a morning where I sleep really late. So I think it's an ongoing process. But I think you can really acknowledge that, first of all, this is healthy and adaptive. We have a lot of research coming out about how important sleep is and how protective rest is for our long-term health and well-being. You can also think about how this is temporary. This is what I really love about living seasonally, is when I feel that call to slow down and stay indoors and rest more in the winter, I know that there's going to be a time of year in the summer that is warmer and brighter, where I'm going to be more social and more energetic and more active. And that this time of year, this sort of incubation, hibernation, really is laying the groundwork for all that comes later. And we can look at plants for this, the summer fruits that we enjoy, stone fruits, peaches, cherries. If they don't get enough chill hours in the winter, they can't bloom properly in the spring and then fruit in the summer. And so we can think of ourselves in the same way, that it's actually healthy to have this season to slow down. Now, of course, you have to balance that. You don't want to stay inside and not leave the house for, 2 weeks on end. So there are going to be those days where you say, actually, the thing I need today is to find that to get outside or meet up with some friends or do a little bit of movement. But when it's negative 30 out with the wind chill, give yourself a pass and just cozy up and really luxuriate in that time at home.
Carrie, I sure appreciate that permission, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Stay cozy, everybody.
Carrie Leibowitz is a health psychologist and author of How to Winter, Harness Your Mindset to Thrive on Cold, Dark, or Difficult Days. We reached her in Amsterdam.
The Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026 are almost here, and it all lives on CBC and CBC Gem. From the first puck drop to the final victory. Access every Olympic moment all for free. With multiple live streams and full replays, CBC Gem puts you in control of the events you want to watch. Get ready for hockey, figure skating, curling, and much more. It all begins February 6th. Watch free on CBC and CBC Gem.
And speaking of the Olympics, in a curious crossover between real life and on-screen sports, heated rivalry actors Hudson Williams and Connor Story were announced as Olympic torchbearers for the Milan Olympics last week. The streaming juggernaut has catapulted Canadian actor Hudson Williams and his American counterpart to the mainstream, as well as lifting Canadian music, with the official soundtrack bringing new attention to some older songs. Now defunct Toronto band Dilly Dally has been getting new love on streaming platforms after their song was featured on the show's trailer. Here they are with their 2018 song, I Feel Free.
We started again in a moment of silence. Still couldn't be friends, but I want you to find what might make sense. Man, it's already hurt you back then. Come, try to stay. 'Cause it's already hurt you back then.
That was Dilly Dally with I Feel Free. That song featured in the trailer for the hit Canadian hockey romance Heated Rivalry. Fans of the show have been boosting their music long after the band officially called it quits in 2023. And many other Canadian musicians like Feist and Wolf Parade are also enjoying new fans after being included in the hit show's official soundtrack. It's time now to say hello to Scott Regier with your CBC Sports News. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Chloe. They did a little Olympic torch bearing yesterday.
Yeah, that's
too,
why
right?
we played the song. Yeah,
there
Connor
you go. That
Story,
was the hook. Got
Hudson Williams, Olympic torchbearers, which is really fun. Those two
they
worlds
just made
kind
the
of
announcement
merging.
Friday, though, and then they were suddenly in Italy on Sunday doing
know.
this. A quick turnaround.
I wasn't expecting it to happen so soon. We're going to turn from the Olympics. We're going to talk to football. Talk about football here, where we now know our Super Bowl combatants.
We do. It'll be the New England Patriots versus Seattle. The Seahawks advanced by beating the Rams yesterday and nearly beating themselves. With the game looking in hand late in the third quarter, Chloe, Seattle defensive back Rick Woolen decided to head over to the LA sideline and rub things in a little bit. Woolen got called for taunting, and on the very next play, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford threw a long touchdown pass over, you guessed it, Rick Woolen's head. Fortunately for him, Seattle held on to win the game, allowing Woolen to save face and probably save his job, too. Meanwhile, the Patriots punched their ticket to the championship by beating the Broncos in quite snowy Denver. A defensive stalemate, the Patriots eked out 10-7, which suits their coach, Mike Vrabel, just fine. A legendary linebacker as a player. He helped lead New England to 3 Super Bowls and is excited for the guys he's now coaching to get the same opportunity.
I do this for the players. I've been in their position. I have. I've been there. And it's amazing. And I want other people to feel that feeling. And it's for our families who make a lot of sacrifices and the excitement and the joy that they have.
The Super Bowl will be played in a couple of weeks at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. For Patriots quarterback Drake May, this will be his second appearance at a championship in that stadium. His first was a decade ago when he watched his favorite team, the Carolina Panthers, fall to the Broncos. His dad promised him, I'm going to take you to the big game if the Panthers ever get in it. May was in grade 7 at the time. So he's a pretty young quarterback now.
Wow. To basketball and an emotional night in the NBA.
Yeah, a positive emotional where the Raptors are concerned. They did something very few teams do. That's go into Oklahoma City and beat the defending champion Thunder. Reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had, by his standards, an off night, just 24 points. Still, the Hamilton native managed at least 20 for the 117th time in a row. Only Wilt Chamberlain's ever had a longer streak, and that streak could be topped by Gilgeous-Alexander in the next couple of weeks. Pretty incredible. Meanwhile, Chloe, in Minneapolis, the Timberwolves hosted Golden State yesterday. The game was meant to be played Saturday, but was postponed following the shooting death of Alex Pretty by ICE officials in that city. After his team prevailed yesterday, Warriors coach Steve Kerr wasn't thinking about basketball.
It was one of the most bizarre games I've ever been a part of. You could feel the somber atmosphere. Their team, we could tell they were struggling with everything that's been going on. And a night like tonight, you feel the perspective of everything and the relative insignificance of a game with an atmosphere like that, knowing everything that's happened, knowing where our country is right now. It's a very, very bizarre evening.
Kerr went on to say it is a confusing time to be alive and to be an American.
Let's finish on a lighter note with curling and the latest from the Tournament of Hearts.
Yeah, 3 teams remain undefeated at the Scotties, Chloe, all 3 from Manitoba. The rinks being skipped by Beth Peterson, Caitlin Laws, and Carrie Anerson. With Rachel Homan not involved because of the Olympics, Anerson is skipping Team Canada, and it's been a nervy ride so far in Mississauga. Anerson almost got upset by Ontario's Haley Armstrong before barely beating another rookie skip, Nova Scotian Taylor Stevens. Anerson's second, Shannon Burchard, says that is to be expected from first-time teams.
These teams are very excited to be here. I remember that feeling in my first Scotties, and I remember playing really well in my first Scotties, and I think that's what they're all doing here. They're feeding off the crowd. This is the most exciting environment that they've played in so far, and it's fun when you make a big shot and the crowd cheers for you. So they're all feeding off of that, and we have to stay tough because they're giving us really great games.
And it's another rookie skip for Team Canada this morning as they take on Julianne Fortin of Quebec. That starts Central Time at 8 o'clock this morning.
Hurry hard. Thanks, Scott.
Yep, you betcha.
That is CBC's Scott Regier with your sports news. Coming up next, it is your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is minus 21. The temperature should feel warmer, but we've got a strong wind, and that is creating wind chill, giving us another day with a risk of frostbite. Our high today will be minus 15, but that wind creating blowing snow in outlying areas this afternoon. A daycare completed in East St. Paul more than a year ago has yet to care for a single child. The $5.5 million building doesn't have hydro power because no one's paying the bills. The NDP government says it can't afford any funds for the project because it's not sure who owns the land. Meanwhile, the nonprofit daycare operator says it has 600 children on its waiting list. Patrick Ryan is the volunteer board chair for Created for Me Early Learning Center.
We just really hope that people can come together to get this going as quick as possible, because it is such a tragedy for the community here that we don't have the extra spaces.
The government says it had an agreement with Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust. The trust transferred most of the shares in the land around the daycare to a Winnipeg developer in 2024. Documentation suggests the trust still owns that land. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A 91-year-old woman is missing, and Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgar. She was last seen near St. Boniface Hospital Saturday morning. She's 5 feet tall, medium build, with gray hair. Polgar was last seen in a white long-sleeve shirt, black jacket, black pants, and dark gray shoes. We have her photo up on our website this morning. You can check it out, and if you've seen her, call police. Well, bitter and dangerous cold was taxing for people who need shelter over the weekend and for those who work to help them. A small crew from a Winnipeg outreach organization drove across the city giving supplies to those in need. Members of the Bear Clan Patrol were handing out things like toiletries and warm blankets while checking bus shelters. Executive Director Kevin Walker says he was glad to see many people went to homeless shelters over the weekend, but they still have to look out for those who didn't.
It's cold enough for us, and we're out for, just a couple hours. Can you imagine being what it's like being out here full time, 24 hours? I mean, that's why it's important that all the outreach programs are out there helping out as much as they can, get those warm clothing and food out to people that need it.
Walker says more heated bus shelters could be an idea, but the ultimate solution is housing. Janice Lukes, chair of Winnipeg's Public Works Department, says the city's 705 bus shelters, of those, 170 are heated and more are coming.
We've got funding. We're putting in shelters. We've got some coming in. We're waiting for the cold actually to finish. We've got about a dozen shelters coming in the next few weeks. So we're continually putting in shelters and replacing glass.
The city has about $15 million from the federal government to upgrade the transit shelters over the next 2 years. A Winnipeg nurse has apologized for repeatedly denying she had no criminal record. The nurse told Manitoba's nursing regulator she had no criminal convictions 4 times since 2020, but she had been convicted of stealing credit cards from her colleagues in 2009. However, the convictions were scrubbed from her criminal record and would not have appeared on a standard check. Sonia Udod is a nursing professor at the University of Manitoba.
Perhaps she felt that was her ability to say no, that she had not been convicted of anything, but in fact she had behaved inappropriately.
The nurse was fined $7,500, ordered to pay $4,000 in costs, and issued a reprimand. Well, Parliament is back today after a 6-week break. Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to announce an increase to the GST credit for low-income Canadians, starting with a one-time 50% top-up in June. After that, quarterly GST payments would increase by 25% over the next 5 years. 2 federal court judges will hear arguments today about ICE operations in Minneapolis. Pressure is mounting on U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration over the shooting death of another American citizen. Alex Pretty, 37 years old, was killed just weeks after Renee Good was fatally shot by an American immigration officer in Minneapolis. Braving Winnipeg's cold to stand with demonstrators in Iran.
Hey Canada, be their voice for Iran!
At least 60 people outside Polo Park for a car rally yesterday. Wide state protests in Iran are entering their 5th week as thousands continue to show up for regime change in that country. In Winnipeg, Iranians feel public attention is drifting away from their country when they need it most. Saeed Gavami helped organize the rally.
The Iranian people need support to overcome this regime. And they are not only fighting for themselves, but they are fighting for the free world, free of the terrorism.
Iran state media says at least 3,100 people have been killed in those protests. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Abby Adiemi joins us now for a look at the weather forecast. What are we expecting?
For today, I think we're going to be dealing with more of local blowing snow and biting wind chills in a lot of the regions this morning. We're seeing temperatures already reaching minus 31 in some areas. Well, no official warnings today, but the wind chill is just something that you need to take into consideration as it gets into the 30s. But most regions today, the highest we will see would be maybe minus 24 this morning. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at minus 22, some drifting snow in the city. Cloudy conditions, we're heading to a high of minus 15. There's a good chance of flurries and some gusty northwest winds this morning. Temperatures will hover between minus 24 and minus 18 before lunchtime. Just be cautious of the sharp wind chill of minus 38 this morning. And then it's going to drop down to about minus 26 by the afternoon period. So a risk of frostbite in play. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, tracking it from Morden all the way towards Port Perry this morning. We're seeing temperatures around minus 17. Cloudy also out there. Minus 14 is a high, a good chance of afternoon flurries. Wind chills in the valleys of minus 32. Brandon, you're at minus 17 at this time. You warm up to minus 15. You also feel the wind chill close to minus 35. Dauphin is at minus 16, warming up to minus 15. Gimble minus 22, warming up to minus 15, and then up north we're seeing temperatures in the range of minus 19 to minus 25. The Power Flame, we're looking at temperatures near minus 19 at this time with some drifting snow. Highs would be around, we're just going to see your temperatures cool to minus 27. Extreme wind chills still close to minus 46 for that part of the province. For Thompson, Gillam, Tudula Lake, we're going to see temperatures hover between minus 21 and minus 24 this morning. Then the wind chill will be in the range of minus 33 to minus 35. A risk of frostbite in play. Up northward, up in Churchill, we're seeing temperatures around minus 20 at this time with light snow falling there. The wind chill feels like minus 33. You warm up to minus 19 later. But take into consideration, folks, it's more about the gusty winds we're going to be dealing with today that will be blowing the snow around. So take it easy. Winnipeg right now, we are at minus 22.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Corey Funk, our show director, is back with an update on the commute.
Yes, just one issue to keep an eye out for. Got a call from the traveling Transconian southbound Panet in your merge onto Marion. They said that there is a abandoned car just blocking the entirety of that merge lane. Looks like it's facing the wrong way. No one's in it. So you can't actually merge from southbound Panet onto Marion. So that car is yet to be cleared. But if you do see anything else going on, that's all I've heard of so far. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
It's time now to introduce a new contest here at CBC Manitoba.
Manitoba, a mysterious place. There's cases to be solved. Your help would be music to my ears and yours because this prize pack is so good, it's almost criminal. Solve the clue, and you could be enjoying 2 tickets to Murdoch Mysteries Murder in F Major with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, dinner at Kevin's Bistro, and a limo ride to get there, as well as a meet and greet with the actor who plays Lewin Watts on Murdoch Mysteries. Here's your clue. This suave Manitoban thief pulled off an incredible gold heist and broke out of numerous local prisons, only to disappear into thin air and never be seen again. Know who it is? Email win@cbc.ca with your answer.
Ooh, very mysterious. You heard that right. If you can solve that mystery, you could win a fabulous prize for a wonderful evening on February 7th. It includes dinner for two, a night with the WSO, and a meet and greet with Murdoch Mystery star Daniel Maslany, a Murdoch Mystery and CBC prize bag, and of course a limo to get you and your plus one around on the big night. Contest entries close at 1 p.m. on January 30th. You can enter once per clue by emailing your answer to win@cbc.ca. That's win@cbc.ca. On Friday, we will pick a winner at random, and they'll be announced on February 2nd on this show by Daniel Maslany. He will be here to introduce the winner. And for full contest rules, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba/community. And if you need to hear the clue again, we're going to play it just after 8:20.
Ever hear a really good radio show and fall in love right away? Fall in love at first listen with the CBC Listen app. Find CBC radio shows like As It Happens and Now or Never and stream them anytime, anywhere for free. Download CBC Listen today.
Sport is supposed to help young people connect with others, but not everyone feels welcome. Daria Horkera-Palmer led Canada's first research report on anti-racism in sport. She's a Pan Am and Canada Games medalist for fencing, who's now giving back as a coach. And she was just named as one of CBC Manitoba's Future 40 winners this morning. And welcome to the program, Daria. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So you've won some prizes as a fencer, but how does it feel to win this prize, CBC Manitoba Future 40 winner?
This feels really amazing. Just to be nominated by someone from the community, Lisa Tarkos, just such an amazing person in the women's advocacy piece. It just feels really nice to be recognized outside of sport.
Can you tell us more about the Anti-Racism in Sport report? It came out in 2021. How did you go from being an athlete to doing this sort of research?
Right. Well, I had always been interested in working in sport and sport management, and that was sort of where I had gone to study. And I had always stayed in sport with coaching and officiating. And so when this opportunity came up with a federal grant to really understand what were the experiences of racism in sport and how can we dismantle that, the first thing we really need to do as part of Immigration Partnership Winnipeg, who took on this project, was to understand what the current state is. Because we were hearing a lot of anecdotally that this was happening, but there wasn't anything research-based, anything that we could point to. And some people in the community were saying, I don't see it, so it doesn't happen. So what we needed to do was go back to the foundation, go back to the community and say, please tell us how you're experiencing this and how do you want us to move forward to create change in the community.
Did the findings surprise you at all once they came in?
You know, we get that asked a lot. And I'd like to say that it surprised me, but unfortunately it just doesn't. It just sort of gives us a better foundation for how we're going to move forward in really understanding the different intersections about how racism impacts everyone across Manitoba and across Canada.
What were some of the anecdotes or what were some of the findings, some of the common threads that came through when people were reporting these incidents in sporting communities?
I think the ones that are quite obvious are the interpersonal pieces, where people are facing racism from not only people they're playing against, but also their own teammates or their coaches or even officials. But it's also the systemic racism. Stopping an interpersonal racism or an instance of racism on the field is one thing, but how do we really look at the whole system? How do we make sure that people in leadership positions look like the people who are playing on the field? And how can that encourage people to then want to take up more of that role from that systemic role so that we can create broader change?
You're pushing for more sporting organizations to take anti-racism training. If you've ever coached a sport, you know that in Manitoba, you have to do multiple types of training. You sit through, there's different sessions. A lot of them are online. You click through some slides. You learn, hopefully. But what sort of lessons are you hoping are offered in that type of training? What do you want all coaches and all people within sporting organizations to know and understand?
As part of our training, it's really foundational level of like, what is race? What is racism? A lot of people don't want to use the different words talking about race because they don't feel comfortable about it. So then how are we going to deal with it if we can't even say the word racism or race? So that's what I really want people to walk away with, is being comfortable with using those types of terminology so that we can address it. But then also having coaches understand that, yes, this is might be just another course that they have to take. But if people are leaving their sport and they don't know why, this might not only help them understand why, but also help them to keep more athletes in their game, in their sport.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that some people said, well, I don't see it, right? And you needed the research and you needed the numbers in order to make a change. How lacking is the research in this field overall?
Wow. Well, this was the first time research on, in general, racist experiences in sport had ever really been studied. There's another really great researcher out in Ontario who's studying the instances of racism in university sport. But other than that, there isn't a lot going on. There's going to be some reports coming out from different provinces that are modeling after ours, and we're just so proud of being able to partner with them and support them through it. And we're also doing another research report. So if you go onto the anti-racism sport website, you'll be able to find our next one, understanding why girls between the ages of 12 and 17, racialized girls between those ages, leave sport.
I'm really excited to hear more about that once it's done. We'll have you back for sure. You're a coach. You play a role in shaping the next generation of fencers, specifically in Manitoba. What does sport give to young people that is so valuable that you really can't find elsewhere? Like, why do you do this?
Sport for me is really a powerful tool for social development for youth. So when I look at being a coach, I'm not just training someone to be an Olympian or a world champion, but I'm also working with them to make sure that they're going to be a good person once they leave sport, because not everyone's going to get to that level, but everyone's going to be someone in society. And I want to make sure that they can move through that world and be good people.
Daria, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations once again for being a Future 40 winner, and excited to hear more about your research as it continues.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've been speaking with Daria Horkera-Palmer. She led Canada's first research report on anti-racism in sport back in 2021. She, as you just heard, was also named one of CBC Manitoba's Future 40 winners this morning. To see the full list of winners, head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
The PWHL is back for the third season of heart-stopping women's hockey. And this season, there are two new teams looking to make their mark on the ice. The Seattle Torrent and Vancouver Golden Eyes. When the world's best women's hockey players face off, anything can happen. Will the Minnesota Frost achieve a three-peat? Will a new team take home the trophy? There's only one way to find out. Watch the PWHL for free on CBC Gem.
You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Still to come, a $5.5 million daycare in East St. Paul was finished more than a year ago, but no kids have been inside. We are going to tell you why the province says the doors are not open. But first, Winnipeg's Ariel Posen has made some exciting announcements. The rock and roll guitarist announced his new album, Bannatyne, will be coming out this March. And recently, he released a new song with Dallas Green, also known as City in Color. Here it is, Ariel Posen with Empty Handed.
Every day, nothing changes. Every day, just another day without you. And I'm staring at the ceiling, looking around for the meaning of what it means when nothing changes. Every time I come up empty. Every time I have to find a half-good reason why. A better way to live with me, that you don't even miss me. You're better off for leaving. Oh, why can you just forget it, let it go? For the falling apart, breaking a heart that just can't be unbroken. You should know I still regret it. Now I'm empty-handed. it lasted. Good enough to never get quite past it. I didn't know what I had yet. See you clear empty-handed. Took it all for granted. Oh, can you just forget it? Let it go. Take all of the credit for the falling apart, breaking a heart that just can't be unbroken. You should know I still regret it. Even if I had the chance again, if I had the chance again.
New music from Winnipeg's Ariel Posen featuring City in Color. That was Empty Handed. Posen will be releasing a new album in March. The time is 7:50. You are listening to Information Radio. If you've ever tried to find a daycare for your kid, you probably know how tough it is to find a spot. Just northeast of Winnipeg, a brand new $5.5 million daycare was finished in late 2024, with 74 spots available for kids. The province provided the cash for construction, but it didn't open in 2024 or 2025, and it's still not open, despite 600 kids on a waiting list to be there. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us in the studio now to tell us why. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me more about this daycare.
Okay, so this daycare is one of 22 built in Manitoba in a program that was started by the former PC government. Now, they work with a company called John Q. Public, which is owned by 11 Manitoba municipalities. Most of these daycares are open, except for this one in East St. Paul, east of Highway 59, north of the Perimeter Highway. Now, if you walk through the snow and you walk up to the daycare and you look into the windows, as my colleague Joanne Levisser did on January 16th, you'll see empty cubbies for kids' jackets and little chairs all stacked up and plastic tubs full of toys just waiting to be played with.
So why isn't it open?
Well, the land below the daycare is part of a bigger parcel called the Meadows. It used to be a golf course. In 2021, Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust bought the Meadows. The trust is an arm's-length investment entity for Peguis First Nation, which is way up in the Inner Lake. Now, last year, my colleague reported some folks in Peguis aren't happy the daycare is 184 kilometers away, and their kids in Peguis can't use it. Of course, no one's using it, including the nonprofit daycare operator in East St. Paul with 600 kids on the waiting list. Patrick Ryan is a volunteer board chair of Created for Me Early Learning Center, which will operate this daycare.
We are aware that the province and the real estate trust are in negotiations to try to get the building ready to go and operational. We just think we have a fantastic facility that is built. We want to get in to get the childcare spaces open for the community, and we just really hope that people can come together to get this going as quick as possible, because it is such a tragedy for the community here that we don't have the extra spaces.
Okay, so when it comes to why the daycare isn't open, well, it's complicated. The short version is the NDP government says it doesn't know who owns the land below the daycare. In 2024, the Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust sold most of the shares in a company it controlled that owns the Meadows land, according to an agreement obtained by CBC News. Now, they sold those shares to a Winnipeg developer named Andrew Marquis, who used to advise the real estate trust. According to the purchase agreement, 16 acres of the Meadows land would remain with the real estate trust, including the land where the daycare is. But that's a source of confusion for the provincial government. Tracy Schmidt's the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Well, right now, we have an agreement with the Real Estate Trust to open a childcare center. Part of that agreement entails having some certainty about who owns the land on which that building sits and who owns the building. Right now, there is some uncertainty or some lack of clarity for the province about who owns that land. We need to ensure that we have clarity about that and about the sustainability of this childcare project before we flow the funds to open it.
So who owns the land?
Well, the documentation we've seen suggests Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust owns it, but it's possible the province's information we don't have. The arm of East St. Paul voted last year to chop up the Meadows land into 4 different lots for what it called ownership purposes. Red River Planning District approved this with some conditions, and that includes some legal paperwork. Now, as of right now, the land title hasn't changed.
So what happens now?
Another issue here is there's a lien on the Meadows land for $2.4 million. It was placed on the land by a company called Pretium Projects, which was selected by John Q. Public to build the daycare. The province was supposed to pay for the daycare. The original project budget was $4 million under the PCs. The NDP government approved an increase to $5.5 million, but the government only paid for 2/3 of the tab, and no funds have flowed since the end of 2024.
So the daycare is built, it is there, but it's not fully paid for.
Yes, and there's more. No one's been paying the hydro bills. There's no electricity at this daycare, and there hasn't been for months. It's basically a brand new building that sat empty for more than a year, and someone even broke in there late in 2025. Greg Stevenson, a former trustee with the Real Estate Trust, says the RCMP called him because he was the only contact left on the file. He says it appears whoever broke in was just looking for a place to shelter.
So what happens now?
Tracy Schmidt, the education minister, says officials at the Early Childhood Learning Branch and provincial lawyers are working with the trust to get the power back on and get the building open.
We know that there are many spaces at this childcare facility. We've also opened several other centers in Northeast Winnipeg and in the surrounding area to try to meet the need. But again, we're balancing the need for delivering on childcare spaces with the requirement to make sure they're sustainable and that they're there for families to rely on for years and decades. So we are working as quickly as we can through our due diligence process in order to be able to serve Manitobans. I wish I had a date for you as soon as possible.
Patrick Ryan, the nonprofit daycare operator, says his entity is ready to open as soon as this gets resolved.
There's a great need for daycare spaces in the community. It's a fantastic facility. It's a beautiful facility. It's purpose-built. And we've had staff members working tirelessly for over a year to make sure that we're ready when the time comes, and they remain excited and motivated to provide more daycare places for people in the community.
Thanks for this, Bartley.
You're more than welcome.
That is Bartley Kivas. He's a reporter with CBC Manitoba. You can read the story or more about this by Bartley and Joanne Lavassoure on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. You are listening to Information Radio. CBC's Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, a 91-year-old woman is missing, and Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgard. She was last seen near St. Boniface Hospital on Taché Saturday morning. We have her photo up on our website. If you know anything about her, you're asked to call police. Days of extreme and dangerous cold have packed shelters in Winnipeg, but one man says he's avoiding shelter spaces because they're too full, and he doesn't think they're safe. Mitchell Peters tried to escape the cold yesterday by staying in a bus shelter near Polo Park. He says winter can be really hard. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Still to come in the next hour of the program, people across Minnesota are taking part in an economic blackout in protest of the federal immigration crackdown in Minneapolis. We will talk to a business owner in St. Paul to get a sense of these new developments. That's coming just after 8 o'clock as well. Canceling the purchase of 88 F-35 fighter jets could change NORAD. That's according to the U.S. ambassador to Canada, with NORAD's Canadian command based here in Winnipeg. We'll hear from a local expert about what this could mean for our already shaky relationship with the U.S. Those stories and more still to come on Information Radio. World Report is next. Stay with us.
On Q.
I'm Garby Bailey in for Tom Power. The Norwegian comedy drama Sentimental Value made waves at Cannes, breaking applause records. You'll hear from Elle Fanning, who stars in the movie as an A-list actor who switches gears for an indie film, and how closely that story mirrors her own.
I'm conscious of keeping a bit of mystery to myself.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Parliament returns today after the winter break, and there is a lot to do. We'll take you to Ottawa with our National Affairs panel with a look at what's on the agenda after Mark Carney's Davos reset and the economic deals made around the world. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Right now, Prime Minister Mark Carney is at a grocery store in Ottawa. He's introducing new measures to make life more affordable for Canadians, and there will be lots more work to do today. Parliament is resuming after the 6-week winter break. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what is the government announcing this hour?
Marcia, CBC Radio Canada has confirmed with government sources what the Toronto Star first reported last night, that lower and middle income families that are eligible to receive the GST rebate, that's about 12 million Canadians, are about to get much bigger payments in 2026 to help them tackle rising grocery costs. Now, normally the GST rebate only rises according to the overall inflation rate, say 2 or 3%, but food inflation remains stubbornly higher than that. We're talking more like 5 or 6%. So for the next 5 years, the GST rebate is going to increase by 25%. And for this coming June, there will be a one-time top-up on top of that, another 50%, something called the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. So taken all together, this could add up to an extra $400 for a single-person household, $800 more for a couple with 2 kids. The spike in food prices has been a major focus for the opposition Conservatives. In a letter over the weekend, Pierre Poilievre reminded the Prime Minister that Liberals promised affordable groceries. He said Conservatives would be eager to fast-track any proposals to address this. So at least for their first big move, as the House of Commons returns today, the Liberals do have reason to believe they're going to find opposition support.
But the Prime Minister will not be in question period. He's going to Toronto to meet Ontario Premier Doug Ford. What's happening there?
Yeah, last week Ontario's Premier was complaining very loudly alongside auto industry representatives about being kept in the dark while the Carney government was negotiating with Chinese officials to allow more electric vehicles into the Canadian market. Originally, the Premier was to meet with Industry Minister Melanie Joly today. Now, following a conversation, it's Mark Carney himself that's paying Doug Ford a visit.
All right, thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. A winter storm is bringing blistering cold and heavy snow to many parts of Canada. The Maritimes will be next. More than 35 centimeters of snow could fall there by midday tomorrow. In some areas, temperatures are dipping well below minus 40 with the wind chill. Cold weather warnings are in place for Labrador, northern Ontario, and southern Manitoba. And in Quebec, thousands of people are without power. The CBC's Kwabina Oduro has been speaking to those living there and living through the storm in Montreal.
So there's no light. You can see that it's 5 degrees.
Janine St. Jacques has been without power since Saturday morning. She's been wearing 6 layers of clothing just to keep herself warm.
A vest, another puffy coat, a really heavy sweater, long sweater, made for winter outside, another sweater, a shirt, an undershirt. And I'm still cold.
Thousands of people in several areas of Montreal and the province have been without power for a while in the midst of an extreme cold warning. Hydro-Quebec was working all weekend to restore power for a few thousand people across the island of Montreal. A circuit breaker failure in their Hampstead station is the cause of these outages. Hydro-Quebec spokesperson Lynn St. Laurent says some people won't see power back online till later today.
There will be an investigation to see what exactly happened. We cannot say that it's because of the cold. It might be, but we can't identify that reason as of yet.
Some people slept in cots in community centers set up by the Red Cross as emergency shelters.
We're surviving.
Quebec, the Maritimes, and Ontario faced a bone-chilling polar vortex over the weekend. And yesterday, Quebec and Ontario were hit with a snowstorm. At Toronto's Pearson Airport, hundreds of flights canceled, which had a downstream effect on airline travel in other cities. Shirley Keaty is hoping to be able to fly out today.
At my age, I don't want to be at the airport for hours. I feel stressed. I want to get out of this cold.
Across Ontario, over 125 crashes on the roads were reported in the first 24 hours of the storm. Provincial police are urging people to drive safely and avoid unnecessary travels. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
2 federal judges will hear arguments today about ICE operations in Minneapolis. Pressure is mounting on U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration over the shooting death of another American citizen. Alex Pretty was killed just weeks after Renee Good was fatally shot by an immigration officer in the same city. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what is the latest?
So yet again, there are dueling narratives around the shooting of an American by an immigration agent. In this case, it's the killing of 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Pretty. Videos show him interacting with at least a half dozen immigration and customs enforcement officers. The shooting, captured from multiple angles, appears to show the ICE agents wrestling Pretty to the ground before several shots are fired. The Department of Homeland Security said Pretty approached ICE agents with a 9mm handgun, but the video appears to paint a different picture. ICE agents approaching the man as he holds a cell phone and tries to step between the agents and a woman. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar says it's time for ICE to leave Minneapolis.
Everyone can see that video. Everyone can see that he wasn't brandishing a gun. He was brandishing a cell phone, and that it was the agents that removed the gun from his back pocket. And I hope this happens. It must, because we must have a transparent and fair investigation for the public to have any trust.
As of now, Homeland Security is leading the investigation into the shooting.
What are we hearing from U.S. President Donald Trump?
So Trump initially posted on social media a picture of the gun that agents took from Pretty, saying, "What is that all about?" But in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he said the administration was investigating. He said, "We're looking, we're reviewing everything, and we'll come out with a determination." He also suggested that at some point, ICE will conclude its operation in the state. While he didn't provide a timeline, he's facing increasing pressure from both Democrats and now even some Republicans over the administration's actions in Minnesota that have now left 2 American citizens dead.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Houthi fighters in Yemen are threatening new attacks on ships traveling through the Red Sea. They posted a short video online. It included images of a ship on fire, and the caption reads, "Soon." The threat is being seen as a show of support for Iran. A U.S. aircraft carrier and other guided missile destroyers are sailing toward the region. Trump has said the ships are being moved just in case he decides to take action against Iran. He has said the U.S. may attack Iran if it kills peaceful protesters or executes demonstrators en masse. Millions of Canadians have no idea an invisible health threat is hiding inside their homes. Among non-smokers, radon is the top cause of lung cancer. Now there is a growing push to change how houses are built in Canada to prevent people from breathing in the radioactive gas. Health reporter Lauren Pelly has more.
Canadians are amongst the most radon-exposed persons on this planet.
At the University of Calgary, Aaron Godarzi is leading a national study on radon. His team found an estimated 10 million people across the country are living in houses with dangerously high levels. This naturally occurring gas is released from the ground as the uranium in soil and rock breaks down, and it can build up inside your home. Over time, high exposure is linked to lung cancer. The number of homes with dangerous levels has more than doubled since 2012.
But our houses are our safe spaces. And we don't like to think of our safe spaces as being harmful.
Godarzi says there are lots of factors why Canada is facing high levels of radon, and it's partially tied to building design. Homes are now more airtight to trap warmth, and by extension, radon as well. He's now among those welcoming a major change to the Canadian Building Code, just released last month, and it now requires newly built homes to have a passive radon stack, which acts like a chimney to help funnel this radioactive gas safely outside.
So it's such a big accomplishment.
Health Canada spokesperson Kelly Bush says the department's radon team helped inform the new guidelines, but they won't translate into action overnight.
It needs to be adopted by provinces and territories, but long term, we are going to be building homes in Canada that have less radon in it.
Others warn the bigger issue is the millions of existing homes that already pose health risks and the high cost to install radon mitigation systems. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Calgary.
For a deeper look at how scientists are working to protect Canadians from this invisible threat, you can read Lauren's reporting at cbcnews.ca. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, the U.S. ambassador to Canada says American planes will have to enter Canadian airspace more often if Canada doesn't purchase F-35 fighter jets. We'll get more analysis on what this means for our already shaky relationship with our southern neighbors. But first, the people of Minneapolis have been shaken again after another person was killed by an ICE officer on Saturday. Protests broke out and an economic blackout was launched in response. We will speak to a business owner in St. Paul to get a sense of these new developments. That's coming up next here on Information Radio. CBC's Heather Wells is here with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, 200 more families are about to be forced out of Pimicikamak Cree Nation after December's power outage caused pipes to burst, damaging many homes in that community. We're going to hear the latest from Chief David Monius. And a daycare built northeast of Winnipeg with provincial funds is still not open, even though it was completed more than a year ago. That daycare in East St. Paul has 600 children on a waiting list for 74 spaces. The education minister says the government can't forward funds to it because it's not sure who owns that land. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Abby Adeyemi is here with a look at the forecast.
It's more of a day of the drifting snow this morning, Chloe. We're going to see that into the afternoon. Most of the region seeing temperatures between minus 16 down south to minus 26 in some areas down south, while up north we're seeing minus 26 to minus 19. The wind chill just in the range of minus 38 today.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Show director Corey Funk is back in the studio for an update on the commute.
Yeah, westbound McLeod is actually going to be closed this morning. All westbound lanes, north side sidewalk of McLeod between Brunswick and London will be closed for sewer work until February 5th. Heads up there as well. Northbound St. Mary's, Tim called at Nickel. There's an illegally parked vehicle in the curb lane. As well, southbound Panet at Marion, the merge onto Marion, there's an abandoned car facing the wrong way, blocking the merge lane. So you may want to avoid that. Can't turn from southbound Panet on to Marion. If you see anything else, though, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
As you may have heard in the news, another person was killed by an ICE officer in Minneapolis over the weekend. Alex Pretty was a 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse who was fatally shot on a commercial street on Saturday. Video footage shows Pretty stepping in after an immigration officer had shoved a woman. Within seconds, at least 7 officers forced Pretty to the ground, attempting to restrain him before one shot him. The Department of Homeland Security says Pretty was armed with a handgun. At a news conference later that day, Governor Tim Walz addressed Minnesotans.
Speaking to the people of Minnesota right now, I hear that scream from you, and I'll continue to plead and ask you for peace. And I know the answer is you ask us for peace and we give it, and we get shot in the face on the streets coming out of a donut shop. We cannot give them what they want. I don't know how to say this in so many terms to watch the madness that we've witnessed over this last week coming out of the White House and what it's doing here. As I've said, exercise your First Amendment rights, speak out, bear witness and document legally, but I understand the risk in that. And I understand the courage that it takes to have people out there doing this. Thank God we have video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies. So my confidence is this, Minnesotans. You know who you are, and you demonstrate it every single day, and we damn sure know who these people are. The American public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough.
That was Governor Tim Walz speaking at a news conference on Saturday. People across Minnesota are taking part in protests and an economic blackout in response to the federal immigration crackdown. Wes Burdine is the owner of a queer soccer bar called the Black Heart of St. Paul. He's one of the business owners who closed up shop in solidarity. Good morning, Wes.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and thanks for continuing to tell our story.
I saw you react to what Governor Tim Walz was saying. He was addressing you as a Minnesotan. How do those words hit you when you hear them?
Yeah, I've listened to them several times, and it's I'm actually surprised at how angry I still am. Not at Walz, but he's speaking to a real truth, which is that we're going to get punched in the face, and we are nonviolently resisting an occupation of our city, and we're going to continue to get punched in the face, and they might continue to kill people, and we're going to continue to resist.
How are people doing after such an intense weekend?
Not good. I'm going to say the people are trying to get by and trying to rally themselves. My hope is that today was going to be rallying for me. I think Friday, with the strike and 50,000 people marching in extreme cold, it felt like pushing back, and it felt like we were really fighting. And then Saturday was a real gut punch. Seeing a man who was helping another woman get shot, and then them call him a violent person who wanted to massacre people is infuriating, and it's extremely hard to process those kinds of emotions. And I ran into a lot of people. Saturday our bar was open. And it was really tough to see people and to see them try to rally themselves. But it's a lot of pain right now.
Our cities are not too far away from each other, and we're seeing footage on the news. But from your perspective, what's it like out there as you're protesting, as you're in these cold conditions, but so many people are still coming out? Can you describe the scene, the feeling?
Yeah, I will say most of what happens here is not protesting. Most of what people are doing and rallying themselves is going and bringing groceries to families that they have adopted who are living in secret in hiding. Most of it is collecting diapers and making sure those families have diapers. Most of it is going out on the streets and making sure that the second ICE want to try to kidnap and abduct one of our neighbors, that we're drawing attention to it. And so most of that's not protesting. That's neighbors coming out and supporting neighbors. Now, people have been protesting, especially since the killing of Alex Preddy, and the mood there is really solemn, and it's really painful, and a lot of anger as well. And I'm very grateful that Minnesotans are stronger and more mature than the creeps who are in our streets, because we're holding ourselves back.
You've been following and documenting ICE. How do you feel about doing that? How do you feel about being in that role after the death of Alex Preddy, who was doing the same thing this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it really brings it home that all I'm doing is everything I'm doing is completely illegal, and that they can shoot you down on the street for it. And it brings home just a basic fact, which is that they can do whatever they want. And if they have to, then that's fine. The whole reason of this resistance is for us to get in between them and the people they're trying to terrorize. And certainly they're terrorizing the white population here as well, but they are trying to nab and harass and terrorize every brown and black person in Minnesota. And I'm just not going to let them. And so if that puts me in harm's way, then I just don't care. Wes,
one of the responses to ICE crackdowns is the economic blackout. You're taking part with your business. Why was that important for you to do?
At first, I didn't understand why it was. I mean, I understand strikes, but it felt like, why are small businesses bearing the burden of this when Target, Best Buy, Medtronic, 3M, all of our major companies, Fortune 500 companies in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota, are ignoring it? But then as people started to sign up and push forward, I got on pretty early, convinced by my employees that it was important, that we can make this sacrifice. The switch changed in my brain, which is that it is important for us to send a big message. And if all of us do it, if over 1,000 businesses shut down, it's not the economic message. It's just the historical moment message that we're able to send to them. And and it was a sacrifice for us, but in the end, not that big. People came out on Thursday and Saturday to support. People sent money. People bought a lot of T-shirts. I'm gonna be spending a couple weeks sending out T-shirts. And in the end, there's a bunch of other businesses already bearing the brunt of the economic terrorism going on from Trump, right? We had all these businesses within blocks of where Alex Preti was killed. They continued to be shut down because there's vigils going on outside, and there's danger. People are angry, and there's worried that that people might respond violently. And there's lots of businesses that I know are shutting down because their staff are too afraid. And so if we have to shut down for a day, it's in the end not that big of a sacrifice.
Wes, what's your lasting message to folks here in Manitoba and Canada about what's happening in your city and in your state?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of friends around the country, around the world, and they're inspired. And I think that you never want to go through anything like this. I wouldn't wish it on, but it has allowed us to have a clarity of focus, which is that people should not go hungry, and people should not be struggling to get diapers for their kids, and that we can, without a leader, without a mandate, we can take care of those needs, and we can find ways as neighborhoods and people to take care of people. And I think that is something that can happen anywhere. The level of decentralized, the massive level of like hundreds of people just from one neighborhood getting together to figure out how can we get diapers to these families. It's really inspiring, and that you don't need a federal occupation. You don't need a world historical event for that to happen. But unfortunately, it's the lesson that we needed to learn.
Wes, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wes Burdine is the owner of a queer soccer bar, the Black Heart of St. Paul. He identifies as an ICE observer. The time is 8:22. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. As you've been hearing in the news, the U.S. ambassador to Canada says there are consequences for NORAD if Canada does not order 88 American-made F-35 fighter jets. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra told CBC's David Common in an exclusive interview that canceling the order means, quote, NORAD would have to be altered, unquote. And the U.S. would have to enter Canadian airspace more often to address threats to the continent. NORAD, which is short for the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has its Canadian headquarters right here in Winnipeg. Andrea Sharon is an expert on NORAD. She's an associate professor of international relations at the University of Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what goes through your mind when you hear the ambassador say that NORAD would have to be altered if this deal doesn't go through?
Well, I think on the one hand, this is sort of part and parcel of the bombastic messaging that is the Trump regime. But on the other hand, we have to remember that the NORAD command is girded by a binational agreement. It is not something that can be arbitrarily changed by one party. And we also have to remember that the North American Aerospace Defense Command is more than one platform. It has a variety of mission sets, and the real emphasis these days is on domain awareness, which is more about Canada's radar systems.
Can you give us a better sense of why the U.S. says it would have to enter Canadian airspace more often if Canada doesn't go through with the F-35 deal?
Well, that's a bit of a puzzle because the United States has F-35s, but they also have F-22s. And the last time that a U.S. airframe had to come into Canadian territory, which is allowed under the NORAD agreement, that's the beauty of the agreement, it was for the Chinese balloon incident, and that was an F-22. It was not an F-35. So why, because of one particular airframe, there would be more sorties into Canadian airspace? I'm not fully following that logic.
Hoekstra says NORAD would still be altered if Canada buys the European-made Gripen planes because they're, I believe he used the word inferior. Is this a legitimate defense concern, or is it him simply trying to get Canada to spend billions of dollars in the U.S.?
Well, the priority is always on interoperability, and certainly if we have the same airframe, i.e. an F-35, that makes it a little bit easier to connect. But I think, again, this is straying from the point at hand. The NORAD agreement has been in place for 67 plus years, and what Canada provides to the United States is things like our geographic area, which allows for things like our North Warning System radars and our future Arctic over-the-horizon radar systems and the other sensors that provide the United States and Canada with more time and space to react. And if you decide to walk away from NORAD, that means the U.S. is giving up that strategic advantage. It doesn't make sense.
What are you going to be watching for as this story continues and Canada is yet to finalize the purchase of these jets? But what are you looking for? What are you expecting?
Well, I mean, the good news is that the NORAD command is working as it should be, and the professionalism of the military, both Canadian and the United States, is staying below the political radar. And so I really hope that we can start to negotiate and come to a solution, because the only adversary who benefits from this political sniping is in fact Russia and China. And, you know, let's be clear, Russia is our proximate, persistent threat, and there's growing concerns about China. And their activity is mostly in the Alaskan NORAD region. So I would really ask the ambassador to have a good look at the threat map to the United States and then see how important and how strategic Canada is to the joint defense of both Canada and the United States.
Andrea, how do you think people at the NORAD Canadian Command Centre here in Winnipeg will be digesting this news?
Well, the second in command is a U.S. Brigadier General. He is also Canada's Deputy Joint Forces Air Component Commander. And I think, you know, this is where the professionalism comes in. They have a job to do and they just do it. And, you know, we have to hope that the political sniping doesn't trickle down into their day-to-day lives. I am concerned, for example, that we have a lot of U.S. military personnel here who are here to defend us and defend the United States. And I don't want Canadians lashing out at them because of their government. We work jointly, it works well, and we've got to try and remain the adults in the room.
Andrea, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Andrea Sharon is an associate professor of international relations at the University of Manitoba. The time is 8:28. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio. And now, a new contest here on CBC Manitoba.
Manitoba, a mysterious place. There's cases to be solved. Your help would be music to my ears and yours, because this prize pack is so good, it's almost criminal. Solve the clue, and you could be enjoying 2 tickets to Murdoch Mysteries Murder in F Major with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, dinner at Kevin's Bistro, and a limo ride to get there, as well as a meet and greet with the actor who plays Lewin Watts on Murdoch Mysteries. Here's your clue. This suave Manitoban thief pulled off an incredible gold heist and broke out of numerous local prisons, only to disappear into thin air and never be seen again. Know who it is? Email win@cbc.ca with your answer.
If you can solve that mystery, you could win a fabulous prize for a wonderful evening on February 7th. Of course, you heard Dinner for Two, One Night with the WSO, meet and greet with Daniel Maslany from Murdoch Mysteries, and a limo to get you there. You can email your answer to win@cbc.ca. That's win@cbc.ca. You can find full contest rules at cbc.ca/Manitoba/community. Corey Funk is here for a quick update on the commute.
You got a call from Heather. The northbound perimeter on the Cloverleaf that takes you onto Portage, there's been a collision right on that Cloverleaf. You can get around it, but just heads up, that's going to be slowing things down as well. Southbound Pembina, just after Point Road, there's an illegally parked vehicle causing some havoc, says Ashley. So heads up, keep left to get around that.
Thank you very much, Corey. Your CBC local news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we've got drifting. It's minus 21 right now. And even though the temperature may look warmer, it is still quite cold because of that strong wind creating a risk of frostbite through the day. More people are about to be forced out of Pimicikamat Cree Nation to fix damage to homes after last year's power outage. Military personnel left the community Friday after completing assessment of damage caused by the December hydro outage. Chief David Monia says they have a company in the community with plumbers and carpenters to repair the damaged homes, and those repairs, he says, will be done faster if people are out of their homes.
Approximately about 200 families, I believe, is being affected, and they have to be evacuated starting tomorrow. We have gone door to door to those people and explained the situation, and so they will be evacuated by Red Cross to either Winnipeg or Brandon.
Monia says they will make arrangements for flights and buses through the Red Cross. He says the community's water and sewer treatment plants are still not fully functional. A daycare completed in East St. Paul more than a year ago has yet to care for a single child. CBC reporter Bartley Kivas explains.
A $5.5 million daycare built on a former golf course east of Highway 59 was finished in 2024. There's space in the daycare for 74 kids and 600 are on the waiting list, but the daycare is empty and has no electricity. Education Minister Tracy Schmidt says the government can't forward funds to the daycare because it's not sure who owns the land. The province had a deal with Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust.
Our understanding is right now they do not own that land.
The trust bought the old golf course in 2021 and sold most of the shares in the land in 2024. Documentation suggests the trust still owns the daycare land. Schmidt says the government is working to clarify this. Patrick Ryan is a volunteer board chair of the nonprofit daycare operator.
We just really hope that people can come together to get this going as quick as possible.
There's also a $2.5 million lien on the land where the daycare sits, placed there by the builder, which hasn't been fully paid. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 91-year-old woman is missing, and Winnipeg police are asking for your help finding her. A silver alert has been issued for Anna Polgar. She was last seen near St. Boniface Hospital Saturday morning. She's 5 feet tall, medium build with gray hair, and was wearing a white long-sleeve shirt, black jacket, black pants, and gray shoes. Police are concerned for her well-being. We do have her photo up on our website. If you've seen her, contact police. Bitter and dangerous cold was taxing for people who need shelter over the weekend and for those who work to help them. A small crew from a Winnipeg outreach organization drove across the city giving supplies to those in need yesterday. Members of the Bear Clan Patrol were handing out toiletries, warm blankets, and checking bus shelters. Executive Director Kevin Walker says he was glad to see many people went to homeless shelters over the weekend, but they still have to look out for those who didn't.
It's cold enough for us, and we're out for just a couple hours. Can you imagine being what it's like being out here full time, 24 hours? I mean, that's why it's important that all the outreach programs are out there helping out as much as they can, get those warm clothing and food out to people that need it.
Walker says more heated bus shelters could be an idea, but the solution is more housing. Now, Janice Lukes is chair of Winnipeg's Public Works Department. She says of the city's 705 bus shelters, 170 are heated and more are coming.
We've got funding. We're putting in shelters. We've got some coming in. We're waiting for the cold actually to finish. We've got about a dozen shelters coming in the next few weeks. So we're continually putting in shelters and replacing glass.
The city has about $15 million from the federal government to upgrade the transit shelters over the next 2 years. Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries is considering the first expansion of VLTs in this province in at least 8 years. That's how long it's been since the former Progressive Conservative government suspended any gaming expansion. The NDP ordered an end to that pause in 2023. Since then, though, no new licenses have been issued, although that could soon change. Liquor and Lottery says it is reviewing almost 30 requests for more VLTs, all from First Nation communities. Colleen Robbins is the Tory critic for Liquor and Lotteries.
Slow is really slow. If you haven't done any in 2 years, that's beyond slow. We need to push that turtle a little faster.
The head of Liquor and Lottery says the government is currently checking to see if every applicant is still interested in VLTs. Some of the requests for more VLTs were submitted before the pause was implemented in 2018. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks for the morning, Heather.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Abby Adeyemi is here for one last look at the forecast.
Well, it's starting to lift, though it's still cold outside. We still have wind chills in the valleys of minus 31, and we're going to be dealing with local blowing snow. That's a remaining factor for the rest of the province. However, down south, we're looking at temperatures between minus 24 and minus 17, and we see highs around minus 15s today, though. That blowing snow is what we will be dealing with across the regions. Up north, we're just seeing temperatures between minus 19 and minus 35 with light snow in most of the regions up north. But Winnipeg, minus 22 right now. We warm up to minus 15 later with some blowing snow to come with that.
Thank you. Abby, Corey's here.
Northbound perimeter turning onto Portage, that Cloverleaf, there's a collision blocking that. As well, southbound Pembina, a legally parked vehicle just past Point Road. Keep left to get around that. That's causing some backups for folks.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is our show director. Abby Adeyemi is our show technician. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Thank you to Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, and Joni Nicolou on our news team. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcia Marcusa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. The Current is next.